Good morning, everyone. If you could grab your seat, we'd like to get started again. Good morning. How was dinner last night? I haven't heard anybody complain about the food, and that's always great. That's the sign of a good banquet. So good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and hope everyone enjoyed last night at the Harvest Celebration. This morning it's back to business, and it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Marit Stiles, Ontario's Leader of the Opposition. We also have this morning here with Marit is John Van Toff, the Opposition House Leader and critic for agriculture, food, and agribusiness. Originally from Newfoundland, Marit came to Ontario to study and stayed because it offered her the opportunity to build a good life and raise a family. After serving as a trustee with Ontario's largest school board, she was first elected to Queen's Park in 2018 as a new Democratic MPP for Davenport. She became the leader of the NDP and the leader of the official opposition in 2023 and was re-elected in 2025. Marit, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and the floor is yours.
All right, well, I got to bring that down a little bit. That's all right, thanks. Thank you, Drew. Thank you so much for that introduction. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Marit Stiles. As Drew mentioned, I'm the leader of the Ontario NDP, but also the leader of the official opposition. You may also recognize me as the winner of the international plowing match. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. There are no winners and losers anymore, but I won it, just so you know. And look, I want to start out by saying, first of all, congratulations to everybody who's running in the elections today. I had a chance to meet some folks who are running, some for the first time, and congratulations. It is just wonderful to see so many people stepping up to lead this organization, and I know we'll be seeing lots of each other. And I'm going to be pretty fast with this speech because I really don't want to get kicked out of here. And yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about. But actually, I have to get over to the legislature for question period, so I'll be heading out. But I really wanted to thank you for having me with you this morning, and also very much for being able to join you last night for dinner. Thank you so much for that. It is always a wonderful meal. It's lovely to sit down and catch up with people, to hear what's going on, and also just to have such delicious, nutritious food. So thank you so much. I grew up, as Drew mentioned, in Newfoundland, in a rural community, not too far from St. John's, though, from the city. And my parents had a small family farm, but more importantly, I grew up around a lot of farmers and fishermen and folks like that. And my sister grew up to be a veterinarian because she saw the veterinarians and the work they did in those communities. And mind you, she ended up being a small animal vet, but so I'm going to make her pay for that. We need the large animal vets. But I've been a city girl for a while now. Came to Ontario to go to school in the late 80s. Pretty much everybody from my generation in Newfoundland had to come to Ontario for work or opportunity. Ontario was like the have province, and things in Newfoundland were not so great. It's shifted a little, I'll tell you that. But living in Toronto for the last while, for my sins, I've also had a chance to work on the other side of things, with community organizations that are trying to feed people, that are trying to make sure that our kids get nutritious meals, and to support our farmers in cities, because we know that farmers feed cities. And my respect grows every single day that I have the privilege of having this role as the leader of the opposition. My respect for what you do and the hard work that you do and how you power our economy as business people, as innovators, as carers of our earth. But very much my respect for you grows every day. And I wanted to say that I've also had the great privilege of getting to meet farmers from all across the province, whether you're in the Southwest to Grey Bruce, to the East, to Thunder Bay, shout out to Thunder Bay, folks who I just met over here, way over there, to the beautiful Temiskaming Shores. And that's, of course, the place that our wonderful Shadow Minister for Agriculture and Rural Affairs, John Vantoff, comes from. So shout out to John Vantoff over there. I've had the great pleasure of visiting farms in all parts of this province and really appreciate the opportunity. So if anybody ever wants me to come visit your farm, just call. I'm there. I love it. But look, I don't have to tell you any of this. Ontario has some of the best farmland in the world, I'd say the best, and the numbers speak for themselves. The agri-food industry contributing $51 billion to Ontario's economy, employing 1 in 9 Ontarians, 871,000 people, I believe that is, nearly 48,000 farms producing more than 200 different commodities, 54% of the food consumed in Ontario grown right here on our land. That is food security. That is food sovereignty. And that is something that is worth protecting. But you already know all that. You live it every day. We see what happens when governments of all political stripes or all levels don't take a moment to listen. We make mistakes. And, I want to say I appreciate the work that happens at all levels of government by all elected officials. But it is very, very important, I cannot stress enough, that we take the time to actually listen to the people who are the experts and who are the most impacted. Sometimes laws get passed that have unintended consequences, and there's no excuse for that. We need to take the time to learn, to grow, and to make sure that we make good laws that protect everyone. Speaking to young farmers that were here last night with me at the table, I heard a lot about the importance of making sure that we keep land costs at a reasonable level, that we support those new farmers who want to keep farming. I also hear all the time from many of you about all the issues in succession and succession planning and how much that can be a struggle. And I think that, again, if we're not listening and trying to find solutions that you have, then government is not going to only be short-sighted in passing laws that don't work, but we're going to be economically short-sighted. Now, we are facing some pretty unprecedented threats from down south. I like to call that guy the merchant of chaos, sitting in a big White House, causing a lot of chaos with his tariffs and his mood swings. But look, really, what is Trump a threat to? He is a threat to our supply management. We know supply management works. We know it absolutely needs to be protected. And we need to do better here on our own as well to build up and build stronger so that we are never, ever, ever again as deeply impacted as we are going to be right now by what is happening in the South. I look right now that this is a time when we should be increasing our food independence. We are losing farmland at a record rate. I know you all know that, and that the farmland loss threatens our sovereignty. It threatens our food security. It increases our dependence on imported food from places like the United States. And by the way, can I just say, shout out to all of those folks out there in the grocery stores who are trying to get by. Right now, a lot of people are struggling across our province, but what I see every day is people looking at the price of produce and choosing Ontario-grown produce. And that is something we should all be very proud of, and thank you for fighting for that. But when you lose, our province loses, but you pay the price. And I wanted to tell you a little bit while I was here about a few things that we're doing that I thought might be useful, and certainly I want to thank the OFA for providing us with a lot of background and information to make this happen. But look, one of the things that we're doing is putting forward legislation requiring an agricultural impact assessment whenever land is rezoned. Now, I think the question should be very clear and very direct. Is there a better use for this land than growing the food on which the world depends? An abattoir in Bruce County? Yep, yep. A vegetable processing facility in the Holland Marsh? Okay. Suburban development in a productive field, maybe in Oxford County? Maybe not so much. But we also need to fix the risk management program. It was designed to protect farmers from market threats, but we've never faced a threat like this, the one that we have right now from our neighbors. The cap, the RMP I just want to remind you, has never really worked. I know that it was another government, a past Liberal government, that capped it kind of arbitrarily. I think that cap needs to be removed, and it needs to be removed as soon as possible. And we need to ensure that Ontario can process our own food products, that we have a secure Ontario supply chain. Producers know this, you are addressing it, and what you need is to make sure that we continue to have a provincial partner who is there with you. Look, my job, I'm not going to talk very long this morning because I know you've got lots to do, and like I said, I got to make sure I got to get back to the legislature. But my job sometimes means, as the leader of the official opposition, that I have to be the one who calls out things that people need called out. And, when I was elected many years ago, gosh, it was like 8 years ago now, I think, from what you said, I remembered. It seems like ages. I got elected because one of the things that I've always had kind of, I don't know, it was how I grew up, I guess, right? But it was that, it's honesty. And that we had a right to, and we should expect, honesty and transparency from our governments at all levels, that those people are elected to serve the people of the province. And as the leader of the official opposition, I always like to say that I get to ask the questions that everybody else wishes they could ask, right? It's the privilege that I have right now. And I really believe, more than anything, in the importance of honesty, again, and transparency and accountability in government. And that is the role of the official opposition, to make sure that there is always a light shone, and make sure that we all know really what's going on and how our money is spent. Because hard-working, tax-paying Ontarians, need to know that every single dollar, especially right now, is going to things that are going to help people, that are going to help grow our economy, that are going to help employ people. And that right there is what I see as my number one job. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to get kicked out every week. I had a few people say to me, "You're going to do that again?" And I said, "No, I can't do that every day. I got to be able to get up the next day and vote in the legislature, right? And ask those questions." But I'm very proud that I get to work with a team that comes from every corner of this province who are fighting as well for the things that I believe in, and I think the things that Ontarians believe in. And those are folks like MPP Catherine Fife from Waterloo, who's been fighting for the Wilmot farmers against, I think, not just a land grab, but also just the lack of transparency in those deals. Our Niagara area MPPs, Jenny Stevens and Jeff Birch and Wayne Gates with the mustache, who are consistently standing up for local wineries and local fruit crops. And as I'm sure, as I mentioned before, our MPP John Vantoff, who has fought hard to advocate and to bring forward the voices of agriculture, of rural people in this province, including advocating really hard for the right to repair, which we finally got passed at the federal level. So thank you, John, again, for all you do. And I'm going to keep, give him a round of applause. I guess he gets more than one round of applause. But look, I'm going to keep fighting. Again, I don't think my role is to just fight. It's to not just oppose, it's to propose. I'm going to keep showing up, and I'm going to keep calling stuff out that I think deserves to be called out. And I'm going to keep fighting for that food sovereignty, for greater protections for farmers, and resilience for our agricultural systems. And I'm going to keep listening, because, again, when we go back to it, like, what is the role of a legislator? Our role is to pass laws. And we need to make sure that those laws are the best laws and the best rules and the best support out there for the people that we serve. So, folks, I want to leave it there. I really want to thank you all again. I know I'll be seeing you a lot over the next few months. I'll be back next year at the plowing match to win again. Right, Mike? Got you. But look, I'm off to Queen's Park. Thank you very much for putting the food on our table and driving our economy, literally. That's something that's always, always worth fighting for. Thank you so much, everyone. Merci.
Well, thanks very much, Marit, and thanks for being the city girl that's a champion for agriculture at Queen's Park as well. We really appreciate it and all your efforts. And we made a small donation to 4-H Ontario in your name. So thank you. John? Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, MPP John Vantoff is here as well, and he's never short for words. So I'd like to invite him to the podium as well to give a few brief remarks. John is the MPP for Timiskaming Cochrane, and as I said, the opposition House Leader and critic for agriculture, food, and agribusiness. A dairy farmer from Northern Ontario, former dairy farmer, John was elected to Queen's Park for the New Democratic Party in 2011. He has a long history of involvement in the agriculture community, organizations, and advocating for issues important to Northern Ontario. We appreciate you being here, John, and taking some time for
us. Thanks very much for the invitation, and my speech is basically what she said. But there's a few things. So we are facing a challenge that we've never faced before with the American government. And I think President Trump made a huge mistake with what he's doing with his farmers, and our government is missing an opportunity as well. Agriculture is number one or number two in this province for job creation, for what we do. But I don't think it's a secret to anybody that we don't get the respect or the attention that we deserve. We're great at growing food. Right now we've got an issue. We can't process all the food we grow. And you are not going to be self-sufficient. You're not going to have food security until we can process it. So the government likes to talk about the ring of fire and used to like to talk about battery plants. But what they need to talk about, and the opportunity we're missing, is we need to make sure that we can process the food that we grow in this province. We need to export. We need to export. But we cannot, with our neighbors to the south, have it hanging over us that we need them to process big parts of our food. We can't do that. The government needs to step up. We're going to push them to do that. It might not be flashy, but we are the backbone of this province. Another thing I think that the government needs, that we need to look at, and I heard a couple people mention it last night, we need to make sure that young people actually have food literacy, that they can prepare food, that they know what food, how important it is. We've got programs like AgScape, ag awareness, but we don't push that enough. The government, it should be part of the curriculum so that we know, so that people know what food means. And the last thing that we have to tackle, talking about food sovereignty, talking about saving land. I didn't talk much about saving. Marit covered that very well. All that means nothing if people go to the grocery store and they can't afford that food. And we need to look at what's causing that. I don't think it's a big surprise what's causing it, some of it. But some of it is the control of a few companies over retail. And I would like to say on all these issues, OFA has been ahead of the curve. So OFA has been calling for a grocery code of conduct. Correct me if I'm wrong. Won't be the first time I'm wrong. Has been calling for a grocery code of conduct for a long time. And we need it more now than ever. We grow the greatest food in the world. We need to process the greatest food in the world. But if Ontarians, hardworking Ontarians, can't afford to buy it, we've got a big problem coming, and we can see it coming. And OFA has waved the banner on this, and we need to push it. Our food, our retail food, cannot be controlled by 3 or 4 people. That is a recipe for disaster, and we're feeling it, and there are many people in Ontario who can't afford the food you grow, and it's not your fault. With that, that's what we're going to be pushing. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much to MPP Vantoff for being here. It's always a pleasure to meet with him at Queen's Park and spend some time chatting about agriculture, and he does a great job advocating for farmers and on our behalf. All right, next speaker this morning is MPP Mike Schreiner from Guelph and the leader of the Ontario Green Party. Growing up on a farm, Mike has been the party's leader since 2009, and in 2018 became the first Green Party MPP to be elected at Queen's Park. Please join me in welcoming Mike Schreiner.
Thanks, Rita. Morning. Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're off to a good start. I got to tell you, I like Mart Stiles. I really do. Willing to work across party lines with her, but there is no way she defeated me in the plowing match. I just got to say, as a farm kid, now we didn't do a lot of plowing. We'd plow out terraces every now and then. But the only advantage Mart has is the GFO guys refuse to help me with my tractor driving because they say I already have an unfair advantage. But I know for sure this year that I won the plowing match. So I just want to be very clear about that. Yeah, she's leaving now, so she heard that. You know, I always love following John Vantoff. We have so much fun at Queen's Park, and it's great. There aren't too many people at Queen's Park who have a farming background, and it's nice to be able to share that with John and Paul Vickers and a few others. I just want to say to the OFA, thank you so much for inviting me to join you. I had a fantastic time last night, had a great time Monday night as well. Just lots of fantastic conversations about the challenges we're facing right now. And I want to tell you, as somebody who represents a riding, that the #1 employer is an auto parts manufacturer. Now, Kathy is my boss and one of my constituents with the OFA head office being in Guelph as well. And I'm going to do everything I can to defend the auto sector. But I want governments to know that the largest contributor to Ontario's economy is the $52 billion agri-food sector, and you deserve to have a government that has your back too. $875,000 people work in the agri-food sector, 1 in 9 Ontarians, the largest employer in the province. And over again, when it comes to supporting the sector, I feel like governments have fallen short. I remember back in the early 2000s running campaigns to protect small abattoirs because you could see the writing on the wall that we were going to lose them. And that's exactly what's happened. I remember working with Donald Serraldo to try to save the St. David's processing plant in Niagara. And we just wanted a little bit of government support and actually a commitment from government that they would purchase processed food from that plant to put into schools and hospitals and public sector institutions. And that didn't happen, and we lost that plant. And you see that story over and over again. And we're at a point now where in the same way governments are going to put money into battery plants, and hey, as a green guy, I'm all for electrifying transportation. I save a lot of money driving my electric vehicle around. But I want the same level of commitment going into supporting food processing, post-harvest handling facilities, ensuring we have the processing capacity in this province to succeed. You know, we talk about defending supply management, and I will go to the wall to defend supply management, but our dairy processing is like 30 years out of date. It needs to be updated and upgraded, and we need to have the kind of support to do that. I also want to say that I love the OFA slogan this year, strength and unity. Because right now, if there was ever a time that we as Canadians needed to come together to push back against the threat from the orange-haired man to the south, it's right now. It's right now. And one of the things I'm proud of is I've reached across the aisle, so to speak, to my fellow MPP, Bobby Ann Brady, who's an independent. I like to call her an independent conservative, though maybe I'm going to try to talk her into being an independent Green. I don't know. I'm not trying to get her to join the Green Party. But the two of us working together to put forward Bill 21, the Protect Our Food Act, to have a farmer-led process to protect farmland in this province. We simply cannot continue to lose 319 acres of farmland each and every day in this province. You know, that's the equivalent of 1 in 9 family farms in Ontario every week. That is a direct threat to our $52 billion food and farming economy, the 875,000 people who work in the sector. And I think it's working across party and ideological lines is how we're going to protect it. And it has to be a farmer-led process. And I want to give a shout out to Drew, who joined Bobby Ann and I in Hamilton to talk about it, getting support for it. And they were the first of what's now become many municipalities passing resolutions in support of Bill 21. And one of the things, thank you. Yeah, please, thank you to Hamilton. Thank you to Center Wellington, Grey Highlands, a whole bunch of others that have done it as well. But I think one of the things that was an eye-opener for me when we were in Hamilton was that it opened a conversation about the importance of food and agriculture to our provincial economy, to our communities, to our society. You know, we had a chance, those of you who live in Hamilton, to give them shit about the stormwater tax. I just want you to know we did get that on the table when they were asking us questions. But I think, you can clap about that too if you want. But I think what was so great about that moment was, one, the clerk told me that usually the online audience is about 10 people. There were over 175 people watching that day, plus all the people in the galleries. To have an opportunity to hear directly from a farmer like Drew and a couple MPPs who represent, me in urban riding with a big farm presence, Bobby Ann, riding with a huge farm presence, how important food and agriculture is. And that conversation right now is so critically important. People in this province need to know how vital you are to our future. Because the bottom line is, if we don't protect our farmland, if we don't have a policy framework in place to ensure our farmers can be viable and profitable, if we don't end speculation in agricultural lands, which is freezing out a whole generation of young people being able to buy land and go into farming if they don't inherit it from the parents, we need that conversation right now, and we need solutions to those challenges. And so Bobby Ann and I are going to continue to go around the province. Any of you want to ask your municipalities to have us come in and talk, we're happy to talk about it, because people need to know that without farms, there is no food, there is no future, there is no food security, there is no food sovereignty. And when we talk about beefing up we do need to beef up the beef farmers, but when we talk about putting more money into national security and defense, I also want to say there is no national security without food security. And that's what you provide us each and every day. I want to close by saying one of the other things I appreciate the work of OFA is that you not only talk about the important role that farmers play in our communities, but you talk about the important role communities play on our farms. And we need a government that's no longer going to take rural communities for granted. We need a government that's going to invest in rural health care, that's going to ensure that we have affordable housing in rural communities, that's going to help people who want to move off the farm and into town actually have a place to move to. We need a government that's going to invest in rural schools. You know, I grew up on a farm in rural western Kansas, in the middle of nowhere, outside of a town of 1,500 people. My mom was a school teacher there for 40 years. And the role she played in that community, helping to educate and care for the next generation. I always asked my dad, why were you on the hospital board? And he said to me, you know, farming is one of the most dangerous occupations out there. And when you get hurt on the farm, and trust me, he put me on a tractor at 10, so it's pretty high likelihood. But he's like, when you or myself or your granddad or your uncle, we need a place to go that we don't have to drive an hour for emergency department services. Or we don't want to show up and have the emergency department closed. And that's happening all too often in rural communities right now. So I just want you to know that one of the things I love about when farmers come to Queen's Park is that all of us across party lines talk about the ways in which we have your back, we support food and agriculture. But I also want you to know that my door is always open to you. I always work with you. I always work for you. And I also want to say when it comes to being able to afford food, John brought this up. And one of the important things I learned the other day is that when you go to food banks now, you know who the largest single donors are to food banks now? Farm Direct. It's not the corporate giants. It's not people putting food in the little bins at the end of the checkout line. It's Farmers Direct. And I want to give Bob Bailey from the Conservative Caucus a shout out, because he's the one who shepherded the legislation through that enabled you all to get a tax break for your food bank donations. And it was something that was supported by all parties. And so there are times at Queen's Park when it is nice to see every party come together to do the right thing and to show strength and unity. And that's exactly what you're talking about right now. And it's something that I'm going to continue to push for at Queen's Park. I know my job is to hold government accountable and to oppose when I need to oppose. But I also think we're at a time right now where we need to figure out ways that we come together. And I think farmers, you are best positioned of anyone in our society right now to bring political parties together, because we all support you. And I want to challenge you and encourage you to leverage your ability to do that, because we need you to do that. Ontario, Canada needs you to do that. So thank you so much. I appreciate the great work you do. Reach out anytime.
Thanks very much, Mike. We certainly appreciate your passion and all the work you're doing at Queen's Park on behalf of Ontario agriculture, and certainly another one of our strong advocates and champions in Toronto. Also want to just make a quick mention that Minister Flack couldn't be here this morning. He had really hoped to be here to bring some remarks. He's certainly passionate about this industry. Yes.
When I was talking to Mr. Flack last night, he told me to say hi to everyone, so I
All right.
failed to do that at the podium, so thank you.
So again, certainly want to give our thanks to Minister Flack for his work as well on behalf of Ontario farmers, and look forward to meeting with him again soon. And I will turn it over to the Resolutions Committee to walk us through the last few. Thanks.
If everybody can get out their devices and make sure you're logged on to be able to vote here. Does Dots want to do a test one before we get started? If we can bring up the first resolution then. Municipal roadway infrastructure. Therefore, be it resolved that OFA work with the relevant parties to develop a resource document containing suggested guidelines. Thanks for that, Pete. Suggested guidelines and key considerations for municipal roadway construction and maintenance projects with specific attention to movement and accommodation of agricultural equipment. And further be it resolved that this document be made available for use by local and county and regional federations of agriculture to support communications and collaborations with the local municipalities and stakeholders. Microphone one.
Mark Nichols, Grey County, I so move.
Jonathan Baumeister, Grey County, ISO second.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, much like the motion that was made yesterday from Elgin County, we would like to have more concrete guidelines that our counties and municipalities can follow when it comes to bridges and roundabouts, roadways, fences, road signs, etc. Something a little more concrete that can be presented when infrastructure is being built.
Is there anyone for or against the resolution? Microphone 3. Oh, no, he's sitting down. Seeing none, I'll call the question. I'm hearing rumbles of trouble. If you're having trouble, please raise your hand or head to the back of the room. Okay. We'll keep it open here for a second just to let anybody else having issues? Anybody else having problems? Raise your hand. Seeing none, can we have the result? Oh.
Off of Wi-Fi, and then it worked.
Oh, okay. So it was a Wi-Fi issue, apparently. So seeing no more hands raised, I will ask for the results, please. And that passes with unanimous consent.
Resolution number 12 from Grey County. Planning decisions. Therefore, it be resolved that the OFA oppose plans of condominiums on prime agriculture areas. Microphone 1.
Lindsay Coles, Grey County, I so move.
Emily McKinley, Grey County, I so second.
Lindsay, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, there's a development being pursued on prime ag specialty ag farmland in our county that is currently under appeal with the Land Tribunal, and they're using the Condominium Act as a guise to creating a subdivision with large estate homes in a rural area on prime ag farmland, which creates fragmentation of the farmland and increases the loss of farmland that we all feel.
Are there anyone else who'd like to speak for or against?
Greg Fenty. I don't want to say that I'm in favor of this. I think OFA's position is to fight development on all prime ag land, so I don't know if we need to add the condominiums onto this. My concern is I would assume condominiums would be high density development, although I believe the way you're describing it, that is not the case here. But condominiums should be considered high density, and if we are losing prime land, high density is going to cause us to lose less. So I'm just apprehensive about this one. Sorry.
Can I just clarify?
If you speak, you close discussion. Would anyone else like to speak?
So I'm not sure if I can clarify this. I've heard a little bit about it. It's not just a condominium going on prime farmland, but the notion is the condominiums, the residents are going to be farming that land. So it's a wrinkle. It's not just a condominium development. It's a condominium development where the residents are farming. So I think it's a little bit sneaky, a way of saying it's farmers. Did I get it approximately right? You can close.
Microphone 4.
I can't speak for Grey County, but I will share my position, and that is, in my experience, this is an excuse by developers to utilize legislation for what it was not meant for. Yes, they are proposing that these large estate lots, and that's what they are, will be used for agriculture in part. But there will be a very expensive house on that 10-acre or 5-acre parcel. And while there may be farming at the beginning, or there may be the intent to farm, history says that that disappears very, very quickly, and you are left with just estate lots, and it's never farmed. So I would speak against this resolution. Sorry, speak in favor of this resolution. Excuse me. In favor.
Microphone 1.
Emily McKinley, Grey County. I just want to clarify, Mark Reeser did a really good job there of kind of explaining the concept of what they're doing. It's supposed to be 31 like large houses, and they're going to have a 55-acre market garden and call it agriculture.
Microphone 1.
Hi, Dean Orr for York. Just a point of clarification, condominiums is an ownership model, so you can have high-density condominiums in Toronto, which of course are going to preserve farmland and prevent sprawl. You can also have these low-density condominiums that might happen in this specific circumstance. I believe the first guy to talk was asking about that. Also, I'm in favor.
All right, seeing no one else at the mic. Lindsay, if you'd like to close discussion.
Sure. Sorry. So in closing, you know, I'm in favor of building up in town, right? Not out in farmland. And I think all of us are in favor of that. So in closing, the Ontario provincial policy statement is clear. Prime ag land must be protected for long-term use in agriculture, and agriculture developments should not be permitted in very limited circumstances.
Thank you. I'll call the question. Again, if you're having trouble with voting, please raise your hand so Dot is able to assist you, or stand up so they can see you. We'll leave voting open because there's people who are having challenges. Seeing no other hands. 1 second, okay. While we're waiting, just a reminder to make sure you fill out your expense sheet and leave it downstairs with staff, please and thank you. Are we ready to? If we can have the results, please. That passes 95.2%.
So seeing as everyone is so on the ball this morning and we are ahead of a schedule, we have a late resolution that has come in from Beef Farmers of Ontario. Whereas Ontario and Canada are world leaders in sustainable agriculture and livestock production, leveraging modern technology and innovative practices to minimize environmental impact while maintaining high productivity. And whereas there are plant-based initiatives looking to amend municipal bylaws that would prevent land use changes for the purposes of animal agriculture. And whereas these plant-based initiatives are emphasizing the need to limit or eliminate ruminant meat from the municipal food procurement. And whereas these plant-based initiatives are utilizing global data when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. And whereas a number of municipalities in Ontario have endorsed the plant-based initiatives, and whereas every week the list of municipalities considering these initiatives continues to grow without consultation with agriculture and livestock organizations. Therefore, be it resolved that OFA work with the livestock organizations to develop and implement a strategy to ensure municipalities are aware that they can achieve their climate action plans utilizing Canadian data, and that livestock production is not the problem, but part of the solution. Can I have a mover and a seconder?
Joost van der Heijden, Beef Farmers of Ontario, Perth County.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Jason LeBlanc, Beef Farmers of Ontario. Seconded.
We have Jackie making the motion and Yost seconding. Speak to the motion.
Does Jackie want to speak, or would you like me to speak? Okay, thank you. The reason we brought this up, it has been brought to our attention that the animal activist movement has taken hold of a number of other municipalities and is bringing this forth, and it's sneaking under our nose. We're asking OFA to step up and unite with all the other commodity groups, livestock and non-livestock, to pay attention to what's happening at the municipal level and be able to tell our story and make sure that the information provided to the municipalities is correct. Because that's not what's happening right now. A little bit in the background on the plant-based procurement. It's led by people like Anita Koenig, who we all remember as being the person feeding water to the pigs going into the Burlington plant. Her intentions are not environmental, it's activism against animals. So keep that in mind, and hopefully we'll find support for this motion.
Are there any comments for or against the resolution? Microphone 2.
Thank you. I support this resolution. I've made a presentation to Middlesex County Council roughly about 3 weeks ago, and that was one of the topics that I brought to their attention, and it was one of the few topics that actually had county councillors asking questions about what is this. People don't know what it is, and what in effect it wants to do is eliminate livestock agriculture in Ontario, in fact in Canada and across the world. This isn't unique to Ontario, this initiative. This is a worldwide attempt at eliminating livestock agriculture. And if we don't support this, we're saying to our livestock commodities that we don't care about you. This should receive 100% support.
Oh, wow. You took almost everything I was going to say.
Microphone 3.
Yeah, hello. Jeff Maltby from Halton. I'm a livestock and on-farm sales. And he pretty much stole most of my thunder. But yeah, we have to reiterate. And, you know, even if this resolution, which it will go through, how much is a different story, we don't even, I don't think us as organizations should sit down and even wait. I think we should tomorrow be phoning our local councils and make sure that they understand ahead of time, even before, you know, that if they haven't heard of it, that they should hear of it. And that we need to be the ones presenting it to them with our version of it before they get their version. Because I've read a bunch of what they have in there, and it is horrifying. Thank you. And I'm in favor of this.
Are there any further comments for or against? Microphone 1.
Well, good morning, and I'm Paul McQueen, beef farmer, but also the mayor of the municipality of Grey Highlands. I've been on municipal council for 28 years, and I've seen over the years less and less farmers on municipal councils. 2 things I would suggest. Run for council as a farmer, and number 2 is support those that are running for council that have the agricultural background, because it's getting less and less.
Microphone 1.
Yeah, Johannes Reinecker, Manitoulin, Sudbury West. I'm strongly in favor of this. I crop farm, but crops that we grow feed the livestock industry, so it doesn't just affect this initiative that this resolution is addressing doesn't just affect beef farmers, it also affects the crop farmers that are feeding the livestock industry. So I fully support this, and I think this should get unanimous consent.
Yost or Jason, would you like to close?
I don't want to close. I want to speak to you. Yost is going to close.
You can speak.
Okay. I just wanted to follow process. Yep. So I just wanted, we've been obviously talking with MPPs and having these conversations. We've tried to approach as many municipal councils as we can. I want to bring to light that on the 24th, Monday, Vaughan passed this. So it's happening, and we didn't even know it was on the agenda in Vaughan. That's why we're asking for help at this grassroots level, right? So that everybody can start paying attention, even more than you already do, to your local councils and make sure. But from their own statements, they want to relinquish no land use changes, ecosystem degradation, or deforestation for the purposes of animal agriculture. Redirect an active transition away from animal-based agriculture systems to the plant-based food systems. Vaughan's, they had 4 bullet points. I'll try and remember the last one because it's the one that aggravates me the most. On Earth Day, they want to have an Earth Week and promote plant-based. We are not, and I ate my carrots last night. We're not talking about against plant-based products. We're all in the same boat. We're trying to feed Ontario. But if that's the only thing they're promoting, then that's a detriment to this organization, and you're going to lose a lot of members. It's really that simple.
With no one else coming to the mic, Yost, would you like to close?
Yes, I'd like to close. I'll keep it simple. A lot of good comments were brought forth, and what better way to pass this at 100% by saying strength and unity.
And with that, I will call the question. And that passes 214 to 5. And with that, it comes to the end of the resolutions. Thank you, everybody, for your time and your effort. And congratulations, you are officially 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
Okay, just before we have Greg Dietrich come up and do the introduction of our next speaker, I'm going to share some exciting results from our silent auction and work yesterday to raise money for 2026 bursaries and scholarships. So our silent auction alone raised $14,462. That's $2,000 more than last year, and last year was our record year, so we have a new silent auction record. And a big shout out to all of you who donated to our silent auction. We really appreciate. We have a lot of businesses, staff, board members, local federations, member benefit partners. Lots of people are making really great contributions to that auction, so thank you. I'd also like to thank Boralex, who donated $1,800 cash to our scholarships for next year. Norfolk Federation donated $200. Our 50-50 draw would have raised $1,295, but that amount was doubled this year because Mark Reeser donated his 50% back. And I'm sure you will remember that Hydro One made an announcement yesterday during their sponsor remarks to this group that they also would like to contribute $2,000 to an energy-related scholarship for next year. So that brings the total to $21,052. Thank you, all of you, for your support. Couple of other announcements I'm going to make, and I see Greg is ready to go here. Jean Emmett visited every single one of our exhibitors over the last couple of days, filled her sheet. So if she could check in at the registration desk on the way out, she is the winner of a Mark's card for $50. And I'm going to quickly run through a list of names here. The cooperators had a draw at their booth, and so you won a prize. And you can also get this. You can get this prize also at the registration desk on your way out. So Cornelia Danis, Sharon Fluelling, Clark Fretz, Callie Ron, maybe Callie, Megan Richardson, Les Claudnicki, Claire Koch, one of our scholarship winners, I hope she's still here, Case Majard, Albert Bowman, and Pierre White.
Good morning, everyone. Feels like just a few hours I saw some of you, so glad to see everyone's here, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. What a great morning we had listening to some leaders who not only hear us, but also seem to really understand the issues and bring them to Toronto every day. I think that's great, and I just want to applaud and congratulate the leaders, the elected officials, to really do our service in Toronto. My name is Greg Dietrich. My name is Greg Dietrich, and I'm the director for Zone 2, the beautiful Bruce and Grey County. Table's over there. Traditionally, farms have been family-owned and ran, and today's no different, with more than 97% of farms in Ontario still family-owned and operated. Agriculture is no different than other sectors of the Ontario economy, and we are seeing effect of an aging population, the boomer effect. Lots of questions and on our minds about how this transition is going to work, who is going to produce the food, and how are we going to operate these businesses. Our next speaker is very familiar with this topic, and he's going to talk to us not only about family businesses, but also transitions and the coming generation. Dr. Thomas Dean is the author of an all-time bestseller business book, and it's called Every Family's Business. It's listed in the New York Times as one of the top 10 books every business owner should read. Not only is he an author of one successful book, but he followed this up with a second international bestseller, Willing Wisdom, and his third book, The Happy Inheritor. A thought leader of transitioning family wealth, Dr. Dean speaks full-time on the international circuit. He's delivered more than 2,000 presentations in 28 different countries across 4 continents. I'm sure not only is he going to give us some food for thought, but he's going to also make us think about some tough discussions that need to be had and transitions to have to make sure that we can continue to provide this province with a high-quality food that we all come to expect. I would like to take, please, warm and welcoming Dr. Thomas Deans to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What a privilege for me to be here to talk about, I think, one of the most difficult, emotional, probably the most vexing challenge that any business owner, farmer in this room is going to have to deal with. I know that this is one of the most challenging industries. I have had the great privilege, you just heard, speaking in actually 29 countries now, just back from Mexico, speaking to auto dealer conventions, funeral home conventions, restaurant associations. I have done a lot of farm conventions, a lot of agricultural conventions. There is no more difficult, challenging sector to transition a business than the one that you're in. I get it. There is no other industry where you're asset rich, and yet cash flow has always been a challenge. And this creates an extra layer of complexity when it comes to the ultimate transition of a business. Today in Canada, $300 million will be inherited. That's $300 million today, tomorrow, and every day. Saturdays and Sundays, $300 million. We are in the middle of the greatest generational transition of wealth. I'm actually looking at the demographics in this room today. I was paying special attention just watching it come in. It is fascinating. We are an aging population. The baby boomers born in 1948, from 1948 to 1964, the greatest wealth-producing generation in the history of this country, are turning 76 this year. And this generation was different. They were cautious, they were careful, they were parsimonious. That's code for cheap. Why were we cheap? Why were we careful? Because our parents and grandparents lived through the most horrific 50 years. Consider this, if you were born in 1900, you turned 16, what happened? Conscripted into the First World War. You survived the bloody trenches of Europe. You came back to your farm. Guess what was waiting for you if you were a young soldier? The Spanish flu. You survived that. By the way, that pandemic attacked young people. You survived that, you got 9 good years in the roaring 20s, although it was during Prohibition, so it wasn't that much fun. 1929, what happens? The Great Recession, the Depression, the longest, deepest, most nasty economic downturn in the history of the country. And when that only ends in 1939. Why? Because the Second World War breaks out. Listen, if you were born in 1900 and you were lucky enough to see your 45th birthday, you weren't standing around saying, I wonder what I'm going to inherit. You were absolutely convinced that there was another horrific natural or man-made event that was going to come along and destroy you. So what did you do? You worked. You worked and you saved and you mastered advanced financial concepts like spend less than you make. Those people had kids. They had boomers. And they told those stories to the boomers, and the boomers listened. Fast forward to today. Those boomers are turning 76, and we were super savers, super investors, and we rode pretty much a golden wave. But the reality is, we are aging out, and those businesses that we've built carefully and cautiously, conservatively, are going to have to go somewhere. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge because we've seen rapid appreciation in real estate. We're seeing looming capital gains tax bills going to have to be dealt with by the rising generation. And at this very moment in time, we have a generation of wealthy farmers who are practicing business succession planning and estate planning exactly the way their parents and grandparents did. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint on what was the central feature of your parents' and grandparents' estate plan and business succession plan. I'll give you a hint what it was. Oh yeah. Absolute silence and secrecy. When young farmers raise this subject today with their parents, they're often met with, relax. Relax. One day, all of this will be, finish the sentence. Exactly. The only problem is, we've got one sibling on farm, we got 3 off the farm, we got 2 on the farm, 2 off the farm. Any combination. How's that go? When the farmer, and I'm looking at the guys specifically in the room, we die 6 years earlier than women in this country. Where do the shares in those farming operations go when that farmer dies? Traditionally, they transition to the surviving spouse, women. Women become the first inheritors. And now in many cases, for obvious reasons, they're living on the farm. I mean, they've participated in the operations of the business, but in many cases they don't have the manpower. They don't have the operational expertise. In many cases they do, but in many cases they don't. I get more phone calls from elderly women whose business owner husbands have predeceased them, and do you know what they tell me? They want to bring their husband back from the dead and kill them themselves. Oh yeah, they are not happy. They are not happy because there's been no larger family conversation around the transition of the family farm. Moreover, half of all Canadians, including half of all farmers, including half of all people in this room, are missing the most important document in a business succession plan and an estate plan. Now, what do you think that is? A will. Half. 15 million Canadians. So while today we're transitioning $300 million of wealth at death, most of it illiquid, we are writing fewer and fewer wills. There is something about this subject of the transition of a business asset where people are overwhelmed to the extent that they shut the subject down. Not only have we inherited farms, we've inherited an approach to business succession planning, farm succession, that is no longer working, primarily because the asset is so enormous, so valuable. This is new. And so what is that inherited approach? It is silence. And it's no longer working. What do children off the farm want from their brother or sister who is on the farm as soon as the last parent has died? I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with funny. They want money, and they want it quick. And they carry around in their minds inflated values of what that farm is worth, and they want it. At around this time that the last parent dies, the family are getting a letter from CRA. And that letter goes something like this. We're sorry to hear about your loss. I'm just kidding. It's CRA. Come on. Come on. What does that letter say? Hey kids, that free farm you just inherited, remember, half the time there's no will. So if there's no will, the laws of intestacy kick in. That's a fancy word for saying the province of Ontario, the province of Saskatchewan, every province has one of these. It's called the nifty little formula for dividing up the farm according to that provincial formula. They don't care if that farm's 100 acres or 100,000 acres. Same formula applies. And what that formula is going to do, it's going to thrust brothers and sisters into business as equal shareholders. What's that look like on Monday when only one is on the farm? What we are leaving in the wake of silence around this important subject is chaos, tax liability, no cash flow, broken families, broken farms, broken communities. And we have to do better. We are extraordinary at creating wealth in this country. Despite high taxes, we are still extraordinary at creating wealth. We're one of the wealthiest countries in the world. But when it comes to transitioning wealth to the next generation, be that in the form of a business or otherwise, we are struggling, and we are struggling in a very big way. In Every Family's Business, the book that I have today that I'm talking about in a lot of detail, I have shared with my readers for the last 20 years a different approach to the transition of a family business. 9 out of 10 businesses are family-owned. $1 trillion sitting in the retained earnings, the equity of small family businesses. farms, auto dealerships right across this country. Why is there so much money stored in these family businesses? Why is it that when a business owner, farmer, turns a profit, we don't pull it out and buy a Porsche? What do? We pump it back into the farm. We don't do that for 1 year. We do that for 50 years. Now, why do we do that? We do that because we want a healthy balance sheet. We want an income statement. We want control over our business. We don't want to speak and answer to the banks telling us how to run our farm or what piece of equipment to buy or what particular input we should or buy or how to automate. No, we want to have no leverage on our balance sheet. We want to run our business the way we want to run them. Now, it's not a bad strategy. It's actually a smart strategy until the day that it's not. What most people don't realize is that the more they invest in their business, the more under-leveraged they are, the healthier their balance sheet, the more complexity they're creating, the bigger the tax bill they're creating for the next generation, the more expensive it is to purchase insurance to create liquidity. In many cases, we are not leaving gifts to the next generation, we are leaving a ticking time bomb. Because we leave the conversation around the transition of a family business much too late. I know what I'm talking about. I've lived this. I was born into a family business. It wasn't a farm, but I should note I live in the Hockley Valley. I have 25 acres. I have a John Deere 1025 and a zero turn. So I'm in. I'm in. But I was born into a family business. We were in the plastics manufacturing business. We actually made parts for John Deere. But my family business story actually starts much earlier on the East Coast in the 1920s. My great-grandfather had a tire distribution business. My grandfather worked with my great-grandfather. He didn't love that business. It was sold. My grandfather inherits, and he starts a chemical manufacturing business in his garage in Montreal. That becomes our largest family business. My father works in that business, doesn't love it. It gets sold for over $100 million. My father starts a plastics company in Orangeville, Ontario, just up Highway 10. That's the business that I joined at the age of 37, having first had a career in banking. That's the business that I run for 8 years as CEO. That's the business that we sell on February 8th, 2007. Does anyone see a pattern in our family, aside from the fact that we can't keep a job? We start them, we scale them, we involve family in our business, but in the fullness of time, if the rising generation doesn't want to risk their capital and buy that family business at full market value based on a third-party valuation, we don't get all weepy. Oh no, not in our family. We don't take shortcuts. We sell that business. Now, this is at the point in my speech where the young farmers are in the room going, oh my God, who invited this idiot? Oh my God, is he going to tell me that I got to buy the family farm at full market value based on a third-party valuation? I thought I was going to get it for free. All I had to do was wait for someone to die. There's a lot of waiters. A lot of waiters in this country. The problem with gifting, or when gifting is left as the only succession option, we are attracting people to the farm who don't necessarily want a farm. Because we reinvest our profits back into the farming operation, that's where the family wealth is. I get it. That is why a lot of families are put into business together for all the wrong reasons. There's an old expression on the prairies, you can eat a cow one burger at a time. This subject of transitioning a farm, when approached early, when you can have a burger every year, you can get through and eat that entire cow. But when someone at the age of 78 has a heart attack and then turns to their children, adult children, for the first time and says, we really need to take this subject seriously, I want you to buy the farm that's now worth $20 million. How is that going to work? Time is your friend or it is your worst enemy. The earlier young farmers can start to begin these conversations and slowly eat one burger at a time, buy 1 or 2 shares in the family business. Slowly but surely. I was buying shares in my father's business 7 years before I joined as an employee. After buying shares the first year, my father then issued a dividend. And I took that dividend and some more savings, and I bought more shares. A year later, my dividends was twice as big because I had twice as many shares. I used that dividend stream and I bought more shares. And I bought more. After 5 years of buying shares in my father's business, he put me on the board of directors. And then 2 years later, he hired me as CEO. In our family, we do it all backwards. I'm a shareholder first, I'm a director second, I'm an employee third. But I can tell you, as I'm stepping in to run our family business, I know absolutely, clearly, that this is not going to be the Tom Dean's legacy project. All I got to do is kind of mail it in, be a little underworked, a little overpaid. Not in our family. That is my job, to continue to work hard to create shareholder value. And if I don't want to risk capital, then we would sell it. And that's what we did on February 8th, 2007, and thank goodness. All of this to say, I understand how connected we become to our businesses. I understand it. In many cases, we're spending more time working in our business than we spend with our family. I get it. We become emotionally connected to this thing, particularly if that thing has been gifted to us from a prior generation. Has anyone here inherited something from an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or a parent? I'll bet you didn't take it to a pawn shop and sell it. What do we do when we inherit stuff? We keep it. We keep it, we clean it, we keep it in a safe space, and it's kind of moving through us, linearly through to the next generation. I understand that there are many farms in this room that have been gifted. And I know that the emotional weight of selling a gift seems impossible. It seems dishonorable. It seems wrong. And so this idea of continuing to do what our parents did and gifting it to the next generation is proving to be a major problem. How do you say no to a gift? The number of young farmers who are joining family farms for all the wrong reasons. A sense of duty, a sense of obligation, working hard, working below market wages. And when those young farmers finally gain the courage to complain to their parents about how little they're paid, often what they're met with is, again, relax, don't worry, all this will be yours. The only problem is that senior generation is going to be confronted with the longest, most expensive retirement in the history of this country. You are going to outlive your parents and your grandparents. And it will be expensive to live the kind of life that you want to live. So it's a conundrum. You need the farm. You need the cash flow to fund this retirement, and yet you've got this young farmer who wants what you wanted when you were their age. And what was it? And it's not money. It's something actually more intoxicating, something more compelling. What is it that really drives us, especially entrepreneurial farmers? We want freedom. We want freedom. We want the independence to get up in the morning and make decisions on farming operations. We want to buy the equipment that we want to buy. We want to make the decisions. We want to sell at a certain price. We want to select inputs. I get it. You want freedom and control. But because we are living longer, that is being denied because that senior generation is not leaving. It's changed everything. You see, the oldest page in the playbook when it came to farm succession planning was this. Back in the 1940s and 50s, you didn't have 2 kids, you had 6 kids, you had 8 kids, you had 10 kids. The likelihood that 1 or 2 would be really passionate about farming, to step in and take over the family farm when you retired, that was a pretty good bet. And you'd kind of semi-retire at 65, you'd semi-retire. Farmers never really retire. You'd have a heart attack at 72 and you'd die. Well, now, that business owner, that farmer, semi-retires at 70, pushed out 5 years, has a heart attack at 72. Guess what happens? Gets a stent and runs 4 marathons. You guys aren't dying. This is the very good news part of my speech. You're just going forever. And you're pushing off the conversation around the transition, not just of the shares, but transition of the control, the managerial control. And that rising generation of young farmers are frustrated. They're frustrated. When Every Family's Business, my book, was first released, I did a CBC radio phone-in show. And I got to tell you, when you do these types of media events, as you would expect, you generate a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. And sure enough, I get this phone call the next morning from this guy who says, I heard your interview. Could you help us out? We're a family in transition, which is always code for we're seriously screwed up. And I said, look, and it's a good time for me to remind you, I am not a consultant. So if you're hearing anything, or if you read the book and you're really digging it and you want more, yeah, don't call me. That is not what this is what I do. This is what I do. So he calls me and he says, look, we need help. And I'm curious, because I know the 12 questions in my book are amazing for helping small and medium-sized businesses start conversations between the generations to figure out if you've got a buyer in the house, if you've got a transition plan that is inside your family. That's all the book does. But I'm really curious to see how these 12 questions would work on a large billion-dollar company. You would know who this guy is. Anyway, I agreed to meet him. I'm in downtown Toronto. I'm escorted to this magnificent boardroom. It is unbelievable. Oak panel boardroom, beautiful art, enormous. And then in shuffles this old guy. He shuffles in and he's waving my book. And he starts to tell me a little bit about his business. And I said, look, hang on. Before you go much further, why don't you invite your son in and we can have this conversation together? And he looks at me and he says, I am the son. My 95-year-old father will be here shortly. Folks, this is where we find ourselves. Death used to be the triggering event for the intergenerational transition of a farm. It's not working. We need to accelerate these conversations around the transition much sooner than we need to or think we need to. Having sold a business, listen, it shaved 5 years off my life. There is nothing I can tell you to describe how many moving parts there are. There's an accounting piece, the legal structure, the tax piece, the emotional piece of letting go. Who will I be if I'm not in control? There are so many hard and soft issues at play. I understand why the vast majority of farmers don't do this. I understand why half of all farmers don't have a will, because the notion of dividing up a farm among your progeny, among your children, is so emotionally difficult to consider that what do? We push it off. We procrastinate. And then on top of this, we have this additional problem that there's a lot of superstition. I don't know if you know this, but the research bears this out. The number one reason why farmers do not have wills is because they believe that if they go to their lawyer, please don't go to Staples and get a will kit for $19.95. I know you can save a couple of $100, but really, that's not the place to save a couple of $100. Please go to a lawyer. And when I say a lawyer, I don't mean a lawyer that does divorces in the morning, real estate in the afternoon, and then maybe writes a couple of wills. I'm talking about an estate planning lawyer. That's all they do all day long. We're talking about your entire life's work. You've got to get that document absolutely right. But the research bears this out. There are people who believe that if they go to a lawyer, give that lawyer instructions, have that will drafted, sign that will, bring that will home. I don't know if you know this, but the research shows that you will die immediately. Can you imagine anything so absurd? It would be like saying that if you have a will and you bring it home and you carry it with you, that you're guaranteed to tag on an extra 10 years. Both are absurd. What I can tell you is that business owners in this room who can work with a trusted advisor, I don't care who that is, a lawyer, an accountant, a wealth advisor, someone that you can trust to help navigate this issue, you cannot do this on your own. You cannot do this on your own. If you were to have what I describe in Every Family's Business and Willing Wisdom and The Happy Inheritor, all three books offer this central solution, the same solution. And that is, and it's going to feel really counterintuitive, But this idea of a facilitated family meeting where you gather everyone in your family and say, listen, we've got this asset and we're going to have to decide how it's going to move, and we need to have a family conversation because we want everyone to participate in this conversation. We don't want to do that old routine where people and families are discovering what the estate plan is when? On death. Like a gender reveal party. It's crazy. I thought ground zero for the kind of estate planning dysfunction was like in those Hollywood movies, right? You'd see that lawyer sitting behind a big desk, and then he's reading the will, and everyone's like, yeah, get to the good stuff. And the farm goes to, little pause for dramatic effect, Billy! And then there'd be like a gasping sound. Do we have any lawyers in the room? They're usually quite shy. And Billy gets to see there's a gasping sound. That's the sound of litigation. That's the sound of someone aggrieved. That's the sound of someone getting more. Well, that's Hollywood. Folks, do you know where the real ground zero for estate planning dysfunction when business owners, farmers don't do the kinds of thing that I describe in the book? You know where it is? It's funeral homes. I was speaking recently in Las Vegas at the American Funeral Directors Convention. By the way, if you ever go to a funeral and you see a funeral director always in a dark suit, looking very, very sad, listen, I've been to their convention. These people are completely out of control. They're wild. And I have a theory about that. They're around death all the time and sadness. These people are not afraid of dying. They are very much alive. You'll never see this part of their personality unless you golf with them. They're fun. Anyway, I give my speech. I then go have dinner with the board of directors who have hired me. And I got to sit there over the next 2 hours listening to them tell stories about what has gone on in their funeral homes over the previous year. I'm going to share with you a super short story. It's one of my favorite that I heard that night. It's a story of three sisters who arrive at a funeral home. The funeral director asks for a copy of the will. Why? It names the executor. The executor is the legal authority to implement final wishes. So, three sisters arrive. Dad's died a number of years earlier. Now mom's died. So, do you have a copy of your mother's will? One sister looks at the other one and says, I don't have a copy. Do you have a copy? She doesn't have a copy. Do you have a copy? She doesn't have a copy. So they said, look, we're going to go back to mom's house. We'll be back in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And we'll get the will. She's talked about a will. I'm sure it's there. They go back to the house. It does not go well. One sister's already been there and cleaned out the silverware. It's not a good start. It's not a good look. Now they're looking for the will. They look in the safe. They look in the top drawer of the desk. It's not there. What do? Do they call a lawyer? Oh, no. What do people do? They start looking in every nook and cranny in that house. They start ripping the drywall off the wall. They're looking in the air vents. It's taken forever. They destroy the house. They give up. They go back to the lawyer. No will. How do you want to celebrate your mother's life? One sister says, well, clearly she wanted to be buried beside Dad. The other sister said, what? I heard cremation, and she loved the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. She wanted her remains to be divided in both oceans. The other sister goes, well, you know what? I heard cremation as well, but I'll tell you right now, if you divide her remains, I'll never speak to you again. And I learned that those three sisters inherited their mother's business. No will was produced, so the laws of intestacy kicked in, putting them as equal shareholders. And because they could never speak, the business failed, and 100 people lost their job in that small community. You starting to dig what's going on right across this country when it comes to the transition and the communication and the preparation for the transition of these large, difficult to divide assets, like a farm, like a business. Art collections, card collections, portfolios, so much money moving. And yet we are continuing to wrap the whole subject in silence. There's only one line that I use in all three of my books. My readers told me it was their favorite line. I'm going to tell you what it is. Silence is the great destroyer of Canadian family wealth. Silence. It's not families that talk, plan for the orderly transition of assets. It's the fear wrapped in silence that destroys wealth, that leaves family litigating. The courts in Ontario are absolutely jammed full of families in dispute. Families fighting over farms, fighting over cottages. Any of you here, quick show of hands, have received an email from a lawyer saying, hey Bill, hey Mary, it's high time you get in here and update your will. We've just gone through our files, you're due? Exactly. Exactly. You're going to be waiting a long time. Half of all lawyers in Toronto don't have a will. 4 U.S. presidents died without a will, 2 were lawyers. In 1968, when Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in Los Angeles, good news, he had a will. Bad news, who do you think his executor was? JFK, assassinated 5 years earlier. Bobby never updated his will. He wasn't just a lawyer, he was the Attorney General. This subject eludes some of the most accomplished, brightest academics and scientists and wealthy people. There is something so weird about this subject where smart people do really, really dumb things because the cost of families fighting. There is one piece of data in my newest book, The Happy Inheritor, that I am so proud of. It was not easy to find. And that is the cost of litigation, the cost for your children to get to a one-day trial to fight over the family farm is $500,000 for a one-day trial per person. You got 3 kids, that's 4 lawyers. The estate has a lawyer. 4 lawyers at $500,000. Do the math. You're not going to get voluntary help from lawyers. You're just not. I'm not picking on lawyers. There's $5 billion of unwritten wills. But they're making a lot of money off families fighting. How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They love it when family are left in the dark. Oh, yeah. You know how it goes. You've been working on you've been working on the farm for 25 years. Your brothers and sisters, one's a dentist and one plays hockey. You have a case. We need to fire off a letter. 5,000, 5,000. Opposing counsel. Listen, you're siblings. Sure, you're not working the farm, but ownership is very different from management. You know what? We need to respond 5,000, 5,000. We need to respond 5,000, 5,000. Here we go. The lawyers are mopping the floor with farming families just like you, just like you. A lot of people say, well, not my family. My kids get along great. And when we try to talk about this subject, often they're met with their children saying, oh, no, I don't want to talk about this. You've worked hard. Spend your money. Spend all of it. We'll figure it out. Listen, lawyers will tell you that when the last parent dies, that same person who's doing the old, oh, I don't want to talk about you dying, become fascinated with their parents' wealth, become fascinated with the subject, and they lawyer up. And here we go again. Having been a thought leader on this subject for over 20 years, having run a family business, I can tell you there is only one thing that I can think of that I've written about, that I've spoken about all around the world. And by the way, everything I'm describing here is exactly the same in the US. Are you ready for this? 127 million American adults without a will. More than 1 billionaire this year will die in the US without a will. It's crazy. This subject, I think because of its complexity, overwhelms people. And people feel like they have to do their estate plan sitting in their kitchen at their kitchen table and tackle this all on your own in isolation. You can't. What I describe in the books is a different approach. An approach where you would sit down with your children and say, listen, your mother and I are flying to Florida. And it occurred to us that we need to update our will. And so instead of just proclaiming who our executor would be, we thought we would actually have a family meeting and kick around the subject together. And we'd probably make a better decision with more input. What do you guys think? That's a family meeting. And I described that in the book. And I described what the second family meeting would look like, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. There are lots of families in dispute, but there are actual farming families that are doing a remarkable job of this. And you are not going to hear about them, and you are not going to read about them. You know why? Because this is their competitive advantage. How do you think small farms got to become big farms. By preying on the family dysfunction of small farms that couldn't get this stuff done. Oh yeah, this is their competitive advantage. They're doing what I described. They use their advisors, they have family meetings, they prepare their heirs, they keep their powder dry, and they buy farms. And they're good at it, really good at it. Quiet about it. There's a lot of quiet wealth in this room. I learned that lesson a long time ago. I was giving a speech in Saskatchewan, and a farmer once told me, he said, you know, the more shit on their shoes, the more money they have. You guys are really good at downplaying your wealth. Oh yeah, no one knows. You drive that used car, you drive that truck, that beater, you could buy a fleet of 50 of them. But what do? You create wealth, you reinvest it, you underconsume, and then one day, all of that wealth has to transition. Clinical psychologists would describe what you're dealing with as cognitive dissonance. This is where you have two core values, two core ideas that are in opposition. One core idea is, I believe in hard work, I believe in spending less than I make, I believe in saving for the unknown, and I want my children to have all my wealth. That's a core idea. But over here, in the back of your brain, another equally powerful and persuasive idea. I love my children, but boy, am I worried about what they would do with my wealth. Both are right. That's cognitive dissonance. And what I'm describing is the only way that I know to resolve that tension in your mind around how assets will transition is to have family conversations. To have family conversations, that's all the book does. It provides a pathway, it provides a series of questions to start. Listen, there's 12 questions, there's no answers. There's 12 questions. There is no farm in this room that is identical to one other farm. Every family dynamic is slightly different. But the answer is always in the room, and it resides in the space between a parent and the rising generation of farmer to figure out how that transition should take place, when it should take place. And it works. In the absence of family meetings, what we're finding are families being tempted to do, this is a huge trend right now. This is called generation skipping. This is where grandparents look at their adult children and think, they don't need my wealth. I'm going to skip over top of them. I mean, they got great lives. They go to Cuba. They do stuff we never did at that age. We're going to skip over our adult children. We're going to leave it to our grandchildren. That's the estate plan. And what they don't realize is how damaging that is between G3, the third generation, and the second generation. How it undermines parent-child relationships between parents and grandchildren. I learned this. I was giving a speech in Iowa at a corn farm growers convention. And I'm signing books, and this giant farmer was looming over top of me. I look up, and I asked him, I said, I hope you enjoyed that. And he said, well, actually, I found the speech mildly disturbing. I've made some mistakes. I've got some regrets. But he said, listen, I want to tell you a story. And he told a story about how his father had skipped over him and left his grandson, his son, the farmer's son, $10,000. And I look up and his eyes are welling up, and he says, and my son died 30 days later because of an addiction that my father was unaware of. Inherited wealth will do one of two things. Whether it's 10,000 or 10 million, inherited wealth will release potential in the next generation, or it will accelerate demise. It won't kind of do one or the other, it will do one or the other. It won't equivocate. And part of what I'm trying to do in these public lectures and in my books is to help families sit down and understand, what do you have in your family? What will it be for you? What will your farm do? And when families can have these conversations and lean on their advisors for solutions, and there are solutions, it's really common for farmers to have a high-performing son or daughter and maybe a lower-performing son or daughter. And so the complexity of that, when it comes to the transition of a farm, often we think, I don't know, how am I going to navigate that? and you do the old silent routine. Advisors will tell you that there's something called a trust. I'm Canadian. Americans are much more aggressive users of trust than we are in this country. If there is something going on in your family that gives you concern around how a rising generation will deal with the farm or other assets, maybe the son or daughter, their partners, maybe they have a different relationship with money, your concerns around their spending habits or addiction, something, their work ethic, something is giving you pause, some concern. There's a lack of trust. Well, your advisors will show you how to use a trust. We often call things the opposite of what they are. Oh, yeah. If you lack trust around your wealth going somewhere, there are solutions. This is common. And that number one scenario that you have to avoid is generation skipping. That is the biggest problem right now in estate planning, business succession planning, by far. I mean, why do grandparents and grandchildren get along so well? It's easy. They have a common enemy. And it wouldn't be so funny if it wasn't so true. You can see the temptation around this subject. Listen, I want to wrap up, and I just want to give a little call to action to all of you and the OFA. First of all, thank you for having me. This is not an easy subject. It is a subject that asks us, begs us to look at our own mortality and to beg the question, what is it that we want to leave behind? And I want to leave you with a simple idea, that the most successful business succession plans, farm succession plans, estate plans, are families that work well when we're not here. You didn't hear me talk about tax. You didn't hear me talk about the farm. I'm talking about the greatest and the most important asset that we own, and it is not money, and it's not land. It is the people. There is no one, and I mean no one in this room, who isn't 4 generations removed from absolute abject poverty. We all came from somewhere. And in your family meetings, you can start to resurrect and start to tell those stories about where you came from. And who was it in your family that gave you a hand up, that taught you, encouraged you to take risks and build something of value? Tell those stories to the rising generation. That is estate planning. If you can do all of that, if you can read this book and start to sit down with your family and have these important conversations, I can tell you you're building something spectacular. It's called family. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have time for some questions?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
Wow. Thank you, Tom. It's not very often I'm lost for words, but it's a great presentation. Cool. We have some time, so we're going to take some questions. If people want to come to the mic, I'll do my best to find you. And then if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask them.
Awesome. And just before we start, a lot of you know each other. So we're here today to talk about family and money and parents and transition. It's a really awkward subject to ask a question in public. So I have a rule. If you have a question, I would ask you to preface your question with, I have a friend.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll start with mic 3, please.
Thank you. How often should you have your will updated?
It's a very good question. So if you talk to a lawyer, they'll say 5 years. But there's something weird about the number 5. Like if I ask a business owner when they're going to sell, they will say 5 years. But I come back next year, it's not 4, it's always 5. The same thing with wills. 1 year I changed my will 3 times. I sold a business. One of my beneficiaries died, and I had a new niece that I added to my will. So the quick answer is there is no magic number. But it is not a one and done process where you go, I did my will, put it in the drawer, I'm good. Not at all. In my book, Willing Wisdom, I talk about my birthday being my will day. I read my will, I actually read it more often than once a year, but my birthday is my will day. Birthdays kind of mark our march through life. And they go from being a lot of fun with cake and toys when we're young to kind of measuring just how close we are to the finish line. So wills as we get, birthdays as we get older become a really kind of a reflective day. They're a great day to just kind of pull it. It takes less than a minute. Most of you people will spend more time cutting your lawn than you will reviewing a document that is the most important document in your life. So, a lot, frequently, would be the quick answer.
Thank you. Number one.
Yeah.
I have a friend that has a few farms and has kids, and there has been conversations of what farm which kids want, sort of like, but they're not married. And we know, and this is nothing against anybody, but I think it's a 50-50 chance that marriages survive lifetime, and then that happens. So how do you go about succession planning to that sort of protects the family farms in a sense that it's not all about, because when families break up or kids, spouses break up, it breaks things up. So how can you keep that moving on in the intention of the person, the friend, who has created those farms and created that wealth, who has had the conversations that, 3 boys want to carry on and they want this farm and that farm, who that friend's father is still 92 on the home family.
Yep.
So how do you, it's not to be mean-spirited or nothing, it's just reality is there.
Yeah.
And how do you keep that, and do you put something in place, or is there a sort of a formula?
Yeah, so here's the, let me answer the question this way. Whether it's a farm or any other kind of business, we just have to look at the McCains, we have to look at the Irvings, the Molsons, the Bronfmans, the Eatons. The real challenge for farmers becomes not leaving the farm to the next generation. You got 2 kids. The problem is when those 2 kids have 2 kids, that is when a branch of a family wants their children to have control of the farm. That's where the problem, it's between G2 and G3 where the real rubber hits the road. That's where the real disunity. And by the time you get to a 3rd generation family business, you've got 20, 30 people, you've got spouses, it gets unwieldy. It becomes and feels like anything but family, the older a farm gets. And I should remind people, only 30% of family farms survive to the 2nd generation. 30%. Of the 30%, only 10% make it to the 3rd generation. So stated differently, if you're a 1st generation farmer in this room, you got a 3% chance of your grandchildren owning and operating that farm.
So the caveat,
3.
So the caveat to this friend is one of the farms, the boys are the 6th generation of that family farm.
Yep.
Is to incorporate, is that a better way to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's tax advice. I mean, that's a very specific question that wouldn't have much import for anyone else here, but you should get some good advice. I mean, there are advantages to being incorporated. Then you have shares, and you can sell shares, and there's capital gains that you can, lifetime capital gains that you can use.
I'll tell that friend.
You need to tell that to your friend. Thank you for that question. Very good. Yeah.
I have a friend as well, and he's wondering about shareholders' agreements over wills. Like when you already have an established business, sometimes that shareholders' agreement contradict wills, or how is that?
Oh, that is I do a lot of events. I never get that question. That is a really great question. So the question is, you have a shareholder agreement, which, by the way, is often drafted by a corporate lawyer. And then you have a will, which is drafted by an estate lawyer, by different lawyers, sometimes in the same firm, but different lawyers, who don't look at the other documents. I wish I could say wills trump shareholder agreements or shareholder agreements. The reality is it's going to be a dog's breakfast. Whatever you do, your shareholder agreement needs to be read and needs to be consistent with your will. So a good example would be shareholder agreement says, I leave, the minority shareholders have first rights of refusal to buy voting control of the farm. The will says, I leave the farm to my oldest boy. You get 2 different, you know what's going to happen. The $500,000 scenario I described earlier. People are going to lawyer up. Why are they lawyering up? The farm's not worth $14,000 like in 1950. It's worth $14 million or 1.4. These are big assets. And there are some lawyers who will work on contingency for free. Oh yeah, no, really, a lot of people think the money is made over here, you know, farming, working on efficiencies, productivity, buying automation, software, timing the market. Listen, the real money is made over here, getting this stuff, wills, power of attorneys. We haven't even talked about those. Getting these documents, getting a good succession plan in place, good management continuity, all this is where the money's made. It's boring, it feels unproductive. This is where generational wealth and generational farms are built.
Stan Bryan, Chatham, Kent. I have to say I've been coming to farm meetings my whole life. I have not heard a better or more informative presentation than yours.
I did not pay him. I did not pay him.
But you'll meet him after the
But
talk.
seriously, don't thank me. Put me in your will.
So I have a comment. I've watched this issue unfold over a lot of farms my whole life. And I feel that you're spot on your advice that you sit the children down and tell them what your plans are ahead of time. Now, the downside to that is if there's animosity, you're going to see it while you're still alive. But I think it's better to deal with it then than have them all fighting after you're gone. And I've seen that happen a lot. I'm sure we all have. So.
Yeah, and I can tell you that one concept that will keep the family intact is the notion of equality. Can you imagine 3 children left an equal share appearing before a judge saying, "Your Honor, this is an outrage. Our family, my father, treated us equally." Said no one ever to a judge. It's absurd. Where we get into problems is when we don't get proper advice and we say, you know what, I'm going to leave the cottage to Bill. Billy goes to the cottage and it's worth $2 million. And Sally doesn't go to the cottage. She never does any of the work at the cottage. I'm going to leave her $2 million of cash. Now, is that fair or is that equal? The reality is someone's going to get a letter from CRA asking for about 30% capital gains. The person who got the cottage is going to be underwater. And when the last parent dies, they're going to send an email to their sister saying, hey, you got $2 million of cash, tax-free. Cash gifts are tax-free. Living gifts in this country, tax-free. Cottages, farms, all sorts of other assets are going to trigger capital gains. That is not fair, and that is definitely not equal. So we've got a lot of problems where we try to do estate planning all on our own and we create actually real problems. Real problems.
Gabe, number 2.
Just going to ask the question about single children. If there's only one child, do you have advice about that, managing all that wealth, and they're not going to farm?
That's called a nice problem to have. And I only say that half jokingly because the vast majority of problems, challenges are between siblings. I mean, sibling rivalry is as old as the farm. But to be a single inheritor of significant wealth in the absence of family conversations around expectations of what they would want that person to do, how to deal with an inheritance responsibly in a way that honors the hard work and risk-taking that preceded, that is not an easy job. If you've ever watched a documentary on sudden wealth, lottery winners, very similar to someone who inherits a lot of money suddenly with no prior preparation. So, and this is an old trope. This is an old routine in Canada where we don't tell people what we have. And then all of a sudden we die and then we sit down and we think, well, they drove a used truck for, 20 years. Clothes, vacations was never really a priority. And then these people are leaving 20, 30, 40, $50 million estates. And the kids are like, after the parents are gone, they're asking the lawyer, where did this come from? What do they want me to do? And the lawyers are like, lawyers take instructions. They don't write wills, they draft them based on the instructions they receive. They don't know the logic behind why they, or what is expected. These conversations, if they're not had, are irretrievable. What I describe in Willing Wisdom, my second book, is how we transition farms and assets, how we transition wealth, is more important than what we transition. People will be remembered for the thought, the caution, the creativity that they put into the preparation of people to receive something. And silence is not that thing. Understanding, you need to understand this. Your farming operation, this is going to sound really harsh and really counterintuitive. Your farming operation is not your legacy. It's not. There's no business on this planet that offers itself as a legacy. Watch this. Who was the founder of Coca-Cola? Exactly. No one knows. No one's even Googling it. No one cares. Third most valuable consumer brand in the world, and no one knows and no one cares. But it does beg the question, if your farming operation is not your legacy, what do you suppose is? It's your family. It's your children. It's the relationships. Those are the things that continue on. Those are the people that will remember you, if you take this subject seriously and do a good job of it.
Thank you. Number 3, and then we'll slip to 1.
I've heard it said, fair is not necessarily equal. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so fair is not necessarily equal. That example of the cottage and the cash, that sure feels equal. They're both the same amount, but one's going to trigger tax. There's lots of examples where we think we are leaving someone a gift, and what we're leaving is complexity, or we're leaving ambiguity. I think most people underestimate that when someone feels they're aggrieved or someone got more, they're not angry with the person in the ground who made that decision. Do you know what living people do? They project their dissonance on the person who they thought got more. And they will think in their mind that that person who got more, like maybe more land, held the hand of an elderly person who made a late-in-life change to their will. They had undue influence. Or mom and dad made a change to their will and left more land to Larry instead of Mary but mom and dad made that change when they lacked capacity. There was cognitive decline. Undue influence and an impaired cognitive decline, that captures 98% of the litigation in the farming community. When we are making late-in-life changes to our estate plan, be very, very careful. This is really where you need to have family meetings and to explain your logic, why you're making the change, and that you are of sound mind and that you are the architect of that change. And one of the benefits, I would be remiss if I didn't share this, one of the biggest, by far the biggest benefit of a family meeting to get at fair and equal is that everyone hears the same thing at the same time. This is very different from someone who dies with a farming operation and no family meeting, no disclosure, no transparency. The will is produced by the oldest boy at the funeral home. People lose their mind. They're grieving, and they find out that Billy is the executor and entitled to an extra 6% of the total value of the farming operation. And they lose their mind. Fair and equal, the best way to get at that is in a family meeting with lots of conversation, with everyone hearing the same thing at the same time. That's going to avoid that situation where we take a shortcut, someone dies, and then you've probably seen this routine. Someone comes over and says, hey guys, I don't know if you know this, brothers and sisters, but Dad wanted me to have the boat. I don't know if you know. Did you not know that? Not in our family. I'm 63 years old. I've been to 58 consecutive family meetings. This is what I grew up doing. We have a family mission statement. We have a family constitution, a family confidentiality statement. It's in the book. Steal it, rip it off, change it, make it yours. But those two documents, the confidentiality statement and our family mission statement, really guide us to create good governance, good rules, good culture, to share what we're building together.
Thank you. We'll conclude the questions with mic number 1.
Yes, I have a friend too. The biggest problem I see, and you never touched on it, that I heard anyway, is this friend, they've been married forever. The reality in today's world is the siblings will not be married forever. 50% divorce rate. Is that is one of the concerns of being quiet?
No, it's a completely valid. 40% of all marriages in Canada end up in divorce. Why wouldn't you think about that as you're considering the transition of a farming asset?
Fear.
And so where there is a lack of trust, there's a good case for the transition of an asset into a trust to protect it from marital breakdown. Where we have a lack of trust, we need a trust. Again, get good advice. And then lastly, let me just wrap up really, really briefly. Are we tight for time?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, so very, very briefly, do not try to time your estate plan like an oil change, okay? We got some young people in this room. April 6, 2018, anyone remember that day? I was sitting in the Air Canada Lounge watching that Humboldt bus accident unfold, and it was being reported that there were lots of young people over the age of 18. That day, 13 people died between the ages of 18 and 28. Parents arriving at the local hospital asking about how their kids were doing, guess what they were bumping into? Privacy laws. The hospital administrators would say, what's your relationship to the patient? We're their mother. I'm their mother. Do you have a copy of their healthcare directive? No. No information. If there's only one thing you take away from today's presentation, and you're a little bit older, help get the young people in your family organized with these documents. The law doesn't discriminate and say, well, you're 18. There's young people law. You might as well be 81. We don't necessarily die in order. We don't know when we're going to die. If you don't have these documents, no one in your family can serve you. Power of attorney for healthcare, power of attorney for finance, and a will. 3 documents that you can help. Listen, when our kids turn 18, we bought them wills. I should note they were very disappointed. They were hoping for cars. Super disappointed. But they're organized, and in our family meeting, we share our documents. They have our will, power of attorney, we have their documents. This is what smart families do. They share their documents, they talk about this stuff, and they prepare. You can do this. I know you can.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
love the line that silence is the greatest destroyer of Canadian wealth, and we're coming to the largest transfer we've ever seen in the human history. So he'll be downstairs with books available. You can see it here. He'll also be signing them. So please, there's lots of action items that were left with us to take home, but support and grab this for your families and for the next generations, G2 and G3. So thank you very much. Kathy?
That was great. I just want to put a little plug in for Tom Dean's book. So the book is $20. It's available for sale at the front desk, and $10 from every sale he's giving back to our scholarship fund. So that's pretty fantastic. All right, we don't have an official break this morning, but there is coffee at the back of the room. There might also be snacks. I can't see that far. Please feel free to hit the washroom, grab a drink, and head on back very quickly, because we're going to move right into our at-large director election, and I'll ask the 4 nominees to please come forward. way. Yeah, we have to. We only have 2 microphones, so just share amongst yourselves. Hello, welcome. We're all gonna. You're all here, and we have to just share microphones. And there was a random draw. Random draw of the order of the and then we do questions. I'll just go back and forth for the orders. Answer the first or last. We'll take questions for a reasonable amount of time, either up to you run out or we run out of time. Yes. Yes. So Kelly, I'll speak.
Is there something clicking on the screen that we can see where we are?
How much time do you have? 3 minutes for your answer. And we will be harsh. So it's 3 minutes. That's like wherever you are. Okay. And then when we do the questions, you'll have 1 minute to answer. And again, I have to be harsh. If you're in the middle, you have to stop. And then we'll take questions until either it looks like the questions are petering out or the clock says we're almost done. And then is it possible to you have to have one thing. It's possible to achieve that in the first vote. It's happened wonderfully. One name will drop off and we'll run again in 3. Like yes. No, except for there was 3 positions. It's dropped off. Oh, in April. Yes. 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 It was a really long election. And then after we clear some of the 3-year position, I'm going to ask you if you would let your name stand. Whoever was the predecessor. We can let your name stand for the 1-year position. I know that you're trying to do all. Say whatever you wish. We are not going to do signatures. We're just going to go right to the vote. Well, right? That's not fun.
Enjoy the experience.
I swear he was in some of the last speakers. All right, here we go. Spend 2 minutes thinking about what you're going to say instead of thinking about what's the order again. Oh, Ian. This is randomly drawn this morning. To give the introduction. To give your introductory speech, yes. Yeah.
Kind of like they did at
The summit.
good idea. Timer.
We'll be able to use like the podium to put our stuff on here. Like I can bring my little book.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect,
Yes, you can.
perfect.
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
guys are the I'm going to go and take a picture from here. Aw, that is great. Beautiful. All right, if everybody can head back to their tables as soon as possible, our candidates are ready to go. Hopefully they all know you by now anyway. We can hope. We hope. And I got papers to know.
This is going to be fun. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. You as
Just,
well.
just do.
I have one more draw that needs to be done. This is.
Oh, they do have a time. Good Lord. Is that from last night?
Yes, this is from the casino.
Oh.
Can you draw one ticket out here? Yes. It's your lucky day. One. The prize was the fun that you had. No, well, there will be one. The real prize is the fun. All right, everyone, I see people milling around that could be sitting, so please take a seat. They're not listening.
No, it's getting quiet, but it's pretty sparse out there. 243 votes.
Should be.
No, I'm asking my friend to text my husband. He's out there. I was asking her to text my husband how it goes.
Okay.
Regardless of how it goes.
I thought you got a good luck from your spouse.
All right, we're going to get started here. So if you're not sitting, if you could stop talking, that would be great. I'm pleased that we are now at the point in our agenda where we're going to run the Director at Large election. As you know, there will be 2 elections held this morning. The first one is for a 3-year position on the OFA board, and the second one is for a 1-year position. We do require the successful candidate to achieve 50% plus 1 in order to be designated as the winner of the election. So it is possible to attain 50% plus 1 off the first vote. If we do not achieve 50% plus 1 off the first vote, the bottom name will drop from the list, and the remaining candidates, you will vote again. And we will hope to attain 50% plus 1 on the third ballot. second ballot, and if not, it'll go to a third. So we will keep doing this for both elections until we achieve 50% plus one. We have randomly drawn the order in which the candidates will present themselves to you. They will each have an opportunity to give a 3-minute opening remarks to the group. And so the order will be Andy, McKenna, Teresa Van Ray, and Angela will be the order. It will be followed then by questions and answers, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. And both for the opening remarks and the answers, it will be kept on time. So we have a timer up here for the opening remarks, and Kelly is also going to help and make sure we stay on time. And so start thinking now about what questions you'd like to ask, and looking forward to this. All right, we're going to start with Andy.
Thank you, Kathy. Good day, my fellow farmers. My name's Andy Kuyvenhoven. I'm a flower farmer from Halton, growing flowers, food for the soul, not the regular food for your body. I want to thank you for the honor of running as a delegate or as a director for large. Goodness gracious, this is bad. I'll try that again. I want to thank you for nominating me as director at large. I want to thank you all, the delegates here. You're all leaders in agriculture right across Ontario. I want to thank you for your participation in what you do and where you do it. It's amazing. Somebody asked me, Andy, what do you bring to the board table? And my first response was, I'm different. And they kind of chuckled. And I said, yes, I'm different. I'm different because I come from a different realm of agriculture. The realm of agriculture I come from is floriculture. We're sort of on the edges of agriculture, and we think differently, and the way we approach things is differently. I ask different questions. I see things from a different perspective. I see things and have been introduced to ideas that are outside of farming that I'm bringing into farming. That's the way I think, and that's how I'm managing. I think differently. I question things. I ask all kinds of questions. Moretz Stiles talked about asking the difficult questions or asking the questions that hold people accountable. That's what I do. I do that often. I raise the elephant in the room question and ask it. By asking questions, we learn more, we create different opportunities, and we see things from a different manner. I ask questions. I listen. When there's discussions, I do my best to listen to all of the discussion. I want to listen so that I can find out what the issue is. I want to listen so that I understand the problem, and then we can come to really good solutions. I want to view agriculture through an economic lens. That means that everything that we're thinking about comes through an economic lens, strictly looking at it that way and then adding in the rest. Because you're all farmers. You want to make money. You want to make a profit. We want to use that profit to continue our living and have the lifestyle that we want. Economic vision is important. So thank you very much for listening to me. My experience that I bring will, I believe, add value to the Board of Directors of OFA. Thank you and blessings.
Thanks, Andy. Next up, McKenna Roth.
Thank you, Kathy, for introducing me. Hello, bonjour. Je m'appelle McKenna, and I am running for Director at Large with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. And that is the extent of the French I know. But I am learning and currently enrolled to speak more French as one of my qualities to be a leader, so I can represent all the members here in Ontario. I'm running to be Director at Large because I deeply care about the families, the people, and the communities that make up our agriculture sector. Ontario farmers deserve a representative who not only understands the realities of living on a farm, but can also clearly communicate their needs and passionately communicate those needs to the people who make the decisions that affect our life every single day. I will bring a combination of grassroots understanding, professional communication, and leadership experience that will reflect both the heritage of growing up on a farm with my family and the current technical and advancing industry that agriculture is becoming. My goal is simple: to listen, to represent, and to speak up for all farmers across our region in all commodities. I'm formally educated as a communications, public relations, government relations, and marketing specialist. Those skills have lended me to a 15-plus year as a communication agriculture specialist. I've worked for a number of ag organizations, and I have led my talents to these groups for many years. I have sat behind the scenes watching boards in action, watching and listening. I create the press releases that you read. I have to take the information that the board puts together to share with the farmers. So many times I'm sitting there at the table and I'm listening. Boards are wanting young farmers. They're wanting new ideas. They need to have a succession plan for the board. So through my very short time that I've been in the Advanced Agriculture Leadership Program, I thought, I can do this. I can step up. I can represent the farmers in Ontario. And that is what I want to do. And that is what I will do. My job will be to listen to what you have to say and bring it to the board table with no bias, no prejudice, no stripe, and no tractor color. Don't worry, green, red, or otherwise, there's no discrimination here. That being said, if you have any questions, always, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you, McKenna. And next up, Teresa Van Ray.
Thank you, Kathy, and to you, our OFA members, for this opportunity. I am a farmer with my family from Huron County, and we grow pigs, garlic, grains. We operate an on-farm store. We package garlic, and I've served as a director on multiple boards. I would like to share with you some of the things about me that you may not know, so you truly understand who you will be voting for. I grew up on a dairy farm near Seaforth, Ontario. My parents were wonderful examples of pillars of the community, always volunteering. Dad was a school trustee for many years, and my mother worked her way up to be reeve of our township. They were constantly showing me by their actions and the importance of community, giving back, and not waiting for someone else to do the job. I hold a diploma in secretarial arts, which now would be business administration. My first job out of college was a secretary to the treasurer of Stratford. When Martin and I got married, I became a full-time pig farmer to 180 sow farrow to finish operation. I was a pioneer sales rep along with my husband for 14 years. Shout out to my fellow sales reps. They were such great mentors and the pioneer for their stellar sales programs that they gave to us. Becoming a mom of 4 children opened more opportunity to learn. I had to find childcare as I was still working full-time in the barns. I volunteered on parent councils, musical productions, fundraisers, and most importantly, helped our children host parties on the farm. Always good to get to know the next generation. We have experienced some very difficult times. My father-in-law suffered a severe stroke in our second year of marriage. Our learning curve now went straight up. Succession plan was non-existent. We made it through 24% interest, disease in our barns, silo collapse, dishonest employees, remortgaging farms when the pig price hit rock bottom, farm transition discussions, hospital stays when my husband had a farm accident, and my turbulent relationship with weather apps. On the flip side, I experienced record high yields, and prices, low interest rates, excellent long-term employees, and seeing our farm grow enough to support 9 families. I know the importance of us telling our story. I went to Mexico on a trade mission before the first CUSMA was signed. I sat with Mexican and Canadian government officials answering their questions about the importance of trade. They wanted to hear from farmers, and I wanted to hear from them. It is important to have strong communication line connecting our county associations and the OFA board and vice versa. I have hopefully, through my actions in the past 6 years, demonstrated this to you. Misunderstandings and assumptions erode relationships. We are on the same team, and we are better when we make each other better. I offer to continue to be your respectable, informed voice at the board table, speaking loud and proud about our phenomenal industry outside the table, and help to lead change to ensure you and our industry thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. And next up, Angela Field.
Good morning. I am Angela Field. I'm a dairy, cash crop, and custom operator. I'm an active and engaged OFA member who has spoken to farmers all around the province and have been a strong and consistent voice for the greater communication in our organization, as well as productive change at the PAC level. Born and raised on a rock in the bush just outside of Sudbury, I now live and work on my husband's family farm in Renfrew County. It was a bit of a culture shock, I'm not going to lie. But this move gives me a very unique perspective. I am not from a farm, I came to the farm, and I have learned. I have learned that we are agriculture. From the asparagus grower to the bison farmer, agriculture is not any one commodity. We are all of us in this room farmers. We share the same space, have the same basic wants, the same basic needs. We, as agriculture, are an incredible community that bands together and supports when there is a need. Whether that need is from a natural disaster, a political emergency, or personal loss, there is no community that supports like those of us in agriculture. As a municipal councillor and deputy mayor, I have gained useful experience sitting at board tables and participating in provincial delegations. I have both led and sat on delegations to the Ministers of Finance, Solicitor General, just to name a few. I have hosted provincial and federal candidates on our family farm during election campaigns to educate them on our industry, not just our commodity. I have been a tour guide for provincial municipal Ag Dev tours to show our elected leaders why they should support the ag industry. I have been in and out of schools for 20 years, teaching our children just where their food comes from and how it gets into their lunch kits. My experience as a past president of the Renfrew Federation, PAC member, steering committee member, and MSR for Zone 8 gives me an up-close and personal knowledge of how OFA works from the grassroots all the way up through the board. This makes me particularly valuable to you, as I've seen every aspect of the OFA and I know just how hard everyone works for all of agriculture. As a mother, wife, and farmer, I have agriculture, our industry, and its future in my sights at all times. I believe in education, empowerment, strong voices, and clear communication. I'm working for a more unified provincial voice where we are agriculture. Today, I ask you to give me the opportunity to be your provincial voice at the OFA board table. Thank you.
Well done. All right, and now it is up to you. We are looking for some questions for our candidates, and I see one over there at microphone number 4.
Hi, thank you, Kathy. Julie Dane in Perth County. Thank you, everyone, for letting your name stand as director at large. It just goes to show what great organization we're with when we have such a strong candidates as you. And my question today is, what is your leadership style, and what way will you implement your leadership if elected as director at large?
Teresa, we're going to start with you.
Oh, am I starting? Okay, here we go. I would say my leadership style is openness, frankness, not making any assumptions, asking the right questions so I really understand where everybody is at, and encouraging others that if they do have a problem, what is the solution, so that we can make sure that we work on it that way. The big thing is to not take anything personal, to make sure that the problem is identified, not the people. And I think that would make a long way. That's my leadership skill or style.
McKenna.
26 seconds to go.
My leadership style is ever evolving. Currently, I am a very collaborative, open, and understanding young leader. I want to hear and I respect all voices. Your opinion and your lived experience comes from a point of yourself, and as a leader, I respect that. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your conflict. I want to hear the things that keep you up at night, and I want to put my mind and help the team recognize that these are important issues. And yes, it might only affect one person, but you're one person that can go and affect so many other people, and what might happen in your backyard might happen in somebody else's. So my leadership style is inclusive, and it is very collaborative and based on the mutual understanding that we're all working for the same goal, and that's to protect Ontario farmers and our livelihood.
Angela.
I have a very collaborative leadership style. I work very well with others. I am able to share the sandbox. It's not about my ideas, it's about our ideas. It's about bringing people together to find the solutions to whatever problem we are discussing. I find that sometimes people think that there can be a wrong answer. There are no wrong answers if we get to a solution. So I have always looked at every aspect, every voice in the room, and I try and pick the pieces from each voice to find the solution. Thank you.
Andy.
Thank you for the question. My style is cooperative, teamwork. I'll ask questions and then I'll listen. I want to understand exactly what you're saying from your perspective. And if there is an alternative solution to what the problem is, I want to hear it. I want to have a really good, open, honest discussion about everything that we're talking about. Put it on the table. Everybody has a good voice and we need to listen. But ultimately, we need to understand the issues together. We need to create some goals of solving the issues, and we need to build an action plan together. And you do that by eminent, detailed teamwork. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. And I have a question online from Madeline Beaudry from West Nipissing, Sudbury East, I believe. How do you plan to work with the Northern Ontario counties to help move our issues forward? And do you know how many Northern Ontario federations there are? Andy, you're up.
Hardly. Good girl,
I'll check my book.
I thank you. Good question. I believe that there are 17 Northern federations. Part of my speech that I didn't get to was exactly addressing the communications part of. I will commit myself and I will request that all the federations reach out to me, bringing forward their highlighted issues that they have. I'm expecting invitations to all federations to their meetings, especially the federations that are thinking and feeling that they're underrepresented. Reach out to me, contact me. Let's get on the same page. Let's understand what is going on. Let's communicate. So in this role, I understand that it'll be a free-flowing information to me getting to understand, and then we'll bring those issues to the board for good discussion. Thank you.
Angela.
So I'm going to go with somewhere around 15 Northern federations. I think I'm close, but I don't think I'm right on. So I have actually traveled the province From Sault Ste. Marie, Timmins, New Liskeard, all the way down to London and Sarnia. Travel is not a concern for me. I have already made contact in the north with some folks up there, and I fully intend, whether elected or not, to maintain those contacts and keep working. Zoom is a thing, but so is my car, so are planes. So I fully intend to be at your meetings. I want to be at your events. I would like to tour your farms. There is still a lot of the province that I have not seen, and my goal is to get there.
McKenna.
Well, I tried to look it up in our lovely book, but couldn't find it quick enough. But you know what? The next thing I have in my hand is a cell phone, and I can Google and look that up. But if I was have to guess, it would be around 15 as well. We were just saying that. But the north, absolutely. It could be said for any region of our province. Not one region is more, well, we're all special, and we all have different concerns. Yes, absolutely, the north is a focus. I would go by traveling on foot. Driving. Not on foot. Not yet, not yet. Get my dog sled going. No, but honestly, it's going there. It's boots on the ground. It's talking to people. It's having those one-on-one conversations. It's going to farm shows. It's going to soil and crop meetings. It's being there and listening. And I have no trouble traveling. There's a great thing. We've got technology with Zoom. We can text. We can connect. And I have been in roles. I worked for Post Media. You might know them. They own a couple newspapers. And I worked with people all across the province, and we connected. And you would have thought we sat in the same room, in the same office every day. And I knew people that well, and that's my goal, to know all members in all counties that way.
Thank you. Teresa.
Working with the North is a challenge because of how vast it is up there. And I remember when Drew introduced Bill, was that just yesterday? And you went through all the multiple areas that he represents. It just blows my mind. I had the opportunity to go to Manitoulin Island there a couple years back. Thank you. Well, you guys did the tour. It was pretty phenomenal. But you have to physically be there to actually see the sand cranes and see the damage they've done. You have to go and see where the crown lands are and how come. Why can't you put your cattle on there? It is that seeing, but it's not always you're not always able to do it. So one of the things that I love about it is the amount of representation we have, like with Bill as our northern director, listening to what he's doing. When we go to other events, and like when we do the AMO or the Roma, you're talking to the municipal councillors that are from those areas, and you get their perspective. It's all about everywhere you go, you ask their story, and that helps us to get to know what's going on, and then to be able to share that story back around the board table and support the northern issues that a lot are.
You're out of time, Teresa.
And I'm talking again. Here we go.
Microphone number 1.
Hi there, thank you. Derek Funk from Niagara. My question is, what is your experience with provincial policy as it pertains to rural infrastructure and land use planning?
Teresa, you're up first.
Oh, I get to be first every second time? No?
Yep.
Okay.
Just going back and forth, then everyone gets a chance to be.
Literally.
Well, I guess I could make McKenna.
Yeah, so just for clarity, what have we done with our municipalities with regards to infrastructure? Sorry about that.
In your case, yes, what have you done? What have been your direct contributions? And for everybody else, please share your experiences that you've had working with provincial policy.
Provincial or municipal? Sorry.
Provincial, please.
Well, I guess we can follow on with my attendance to the AMO and the Roma conventions and talking directly to our members that have been elected. One of the other things that I find that are very, very useful is when we get to attend the events that some of our local federations have put on that invite the MPPs and the MPs to come around and hear the stories of us as directors, but also from all the other commodities that sit around the table to get that story to them. I am not shy with writing letters to our municipal, or, well, any government personnel isn't, well, any news reporter either, too. We'll just keep talking there. But it is very important to be advised of what's going on there, and be able to know what's on their agenda, because nobody's going to really care about what's going on the farm unless they know that you care what's going on there. And one of the things I found when I was just starting out is...
That's it, Teresa.
That's me.
Sorry. McKenna.
Thank you for the question. One of the my leisure hobbies, which has now happened to turn into part of my career, is being a rural policy advocate. So that means I read policy, I read government documents for fun in my spare time. Nobody's paying me to do this, nobody is telling me any objectives, and I read them and I go through and I think, is this actually going to benefit an Ontario farmer? I'm that rural farmer that they're talking about. And you mentioned rural infrastructure. To me, it absolutely boggles my mind where we are located and the absolute lack of connectivity. It was mentioned yesterday in Senator Rob Black's comments as well. We need to have an infrastructure that supports this industry. If this was the hospital, if this was healthcare, people would be shocked at the lack of infrastructure we have to run multi-million-dollar businesses. Land use planning as well is something I enjoy writing about.
Thank you. Angela.
So as a municipal councillor, deputy mayor, I've had to deal with provincial policy. And making it work for our municipalities so that we are not using our prime ag lands is difficult at best. But I work hard on our council to make sure that those things are protected, that our lands are protected. The other thing that I do every time there's an election is we have our candidates, whether they're provincial, whether they're federal. They come to the farm, we have sit-downs with them, and we explain the what and the why and how it affects us. And we advocate hard in between elections to make sure that they understand that our lands are not up for grabs for more houses. Our lands are going to keep us alive. They're going to sustain us with food sovereignty. So that is how I approach provincial policy.
Andy.
Thank you for the question. As I understood the question, it said, what experience do you have with provincial infrastructure policy? And I can say that what I've been working on with Flowers Canada years ago was exactly that. And in my role at the CFA, we drafted and worked very hard on national infrastructure policy, promoting the idea of getting internet around Canada, right across Canada, building the infrastructure that's required for agriculture to do its job in all the places. We have so many gaps in that, and that type of work I've been involved in at CFA. I've been involved in all levels of policy development over my 30 years in advocacy work, and those policies have helped me to understand exactly what good policy is all about. Thank you.
Thanks. Microphone 4 and then 3.
Tanya Terpstra, Ontario Pork. How would you, as a board member, work with one voice in the event of trade discussions to support supply management on trade, while work with non-supply management wishes open trade?
All right, and because the women in the middle haven't had an opportunity to go first, I'm going to do Angela first, then McKenna.
That's an excellent question. Thank you very much. I don't look at us as each commodity. So if it's going to benefit one but be a detriment to the other, it's not a fair deal. We have to find deals that support us all. We have to find deals that support our supply managed systems, but we have to find deals that support beef and pork and the other smaller niche market products. A bad deal is not just an acceptable deal to get things through. So I would be looking at what we can share as our needs and our wants and work sort of backwards, I guess, focusing on the overall health of our ag system versus any one commodity against the other.
McKenna.
Exactly. That is a very great question. And if elected, luckily I'd have a board to help and support me answer that and figure out what we would do together, because it's not just, again, one person's idea on how this is going to go forward. We need to work together. And I'm one of those people. We talk about policy, we talk about things, but I'm going to ask you how. I'm going to ask you why. I want to know the steps on how this is going to actually work out, and then we're going to figure out the problems and look at all the different conflicts, all the different repercussions. And yes, yesterday, the keynote speaker, she spoke, opinion is free, research costs money. And if we want to have good deals, and if we want to have good trade negotiations, we need to do the research, and we need to make sure that we have the numbers to back up the economic driving force that we have, and we are stronger together. My opinions
Thank you, McKenna. Teresa.
We have to start now, or a number of years ago. One of the things we need to do is support Canadian agriculture and stop talking in little silos. My thought, and we've this idea around, is to getting all the commodities behind closed doors without prejudice and have a conversation about how can we support Canadian agriculture without having the news tell the story about how supply management is desiccated. It's not. That's not fair to my supply management colleagues. And why are we not standing up together and stopping with the segregation? I believe that and the knowledge, like when we see on the news when they're putting one commodity against the other, we need to be out there and stop somebody else telling our story. And that's where we need to develop alliances with the people that are electing our officials. They need to know the importance of agriculture.
Andy.
Thank you for the question, a great question. All of ag is all of ag. We're all important, we're all equally important, and we all are economic drivers in the entire part of our economy. And we're all needed to supply all of the foods and all of the ag products that are necessary to run our lives. Bill 282, a controversial bill that landed up in the House of Commons. CFA worked through that. I'm on the executive of CFA, and I was front and forward in the discussions of what was going on there. So I have an intricate understanding of the different perspectives that the different organizations have. One of my key platform thoughts has always been agriculture needs to sing from the same song sheet. I have said this many times in different places. We need to get together, because when we're not together, the government divides us, and we need to stay united to get the best situation we can get. Thank you.
Andrea.
Organizational environments like the OFA are affected by the external and internal factors that influence operation, performance, and decision-making. In regard to this, what do you feel are the most important factors affecting the OFA?
Yes.
Organizational culture.
Can you just go a little closer to the mic?
I mean, you're having trouble hearing me? Oh, boy. Organizational culture is the external and internal factors that influence the operation, performance, and decision-making of an organization. What do you feel are the most important factors affecting the OFA in this regard?
Thanks, Andrea. We're going to start with McKenna.
That's a great question. And when we talk about culture, when we talk about leadership, it comes from the top down. And I have not been around the OFA boardroom table yet, so I do not have any preconceived notions or understanding of any backgrounds where there might be disconnect, where there might be those external or internal factors that are affecting collaboration. My role will be to come with an absolute unbiased voice, as I had mentioned earlier, but the ultimate goal is for us to close those factors, those doors that are affecting us, so we have a clear mind and that we can put aside our ego, we can put aside our personal disagreements that happen outside of the boardroom, and that's something that I am able to do. I'm able to put my blinders on and focus.
Thanks, McKenna. Andy.
I think that the backbone of any great organization is governance. When you have a really solid governance structure put together, that is the parameters, that is the box that you need to operate inside of. So when you have good governance and you follow good governance, you can make great decisions. Inside of any given boardroom, you need cooperation, you need open-mindedness, and you need to operate from a perspective of respecting everybody's opinion, regardless of what you think of it, because everybody's opinion is to be respected and important. And when you have that type of work atmosphere and board working together, looking and working towards common goals, I believe you'll have the most successful organization that you can. And from there, you can leapfrog into great decisions, great actions, and continue to make ag great in Ontario. Thank you.
Angela.
If I understand the question correctly, the most important factors affecting the OFA organization as a whole is a push-pull. There's a push-pull between the grassroots, the mid-range being the PAC, and the board. And we need to work together as a united voice, one voice, at every level, and we need to communicate. Communication has been, from what I am told, from what I have seen to a point, communication has been an issue. And if we all work together to make our voices heard, grassroots up, board level down, I think that a lot of the factors that have been and the issues that have been affecting us can be solved. I'm going to leave it at that.
Teresa.
Definitely agreeing with Andy with regards to having solid policies in which our behavior is governed by. We all need rules, and if you don't have rules, then you go beyond the lines, and you're not able to be functional. Also, having the same goals is very important, and going through your strategic plans and being on that page. Trust and communication. There is, yes, I agree, there has been some things that have happened in the past that I think they need to be dealt with. And that's where I would pledge that we bring people to the board that can bring your voice respectfully so that everybody around the table can hear, and everybody has their own, even if they don't agree, they can sit back and look at each other's eyes and have that conversation.
All right, microphone number 1.
Yeah, Johannes Reniker, Manitoulin Sudbury West. First of all, thank you to all of you for putting your names forth. I'm sure all of us appreciate it. My question would be, if one should arise, how would each of you deal with the conflict within?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Like, yeah, if a conflict should arise, how would you each deal with, if a conflict arises, how would you deal with that?
All right. Teresa.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess basically a little bit of how I answered the last question. I like to follow Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. One is to be impeccable with your word. One is don't take anything personally. Deal with the issue. Don't make assumptions. Ask those questions. And I'm going to pledge to you that I would always do my best and be able to hear your story and ask the right questions so that we really know what the issue is to be able to do that. I also believe there is a time where you're going to have to agree to disagree and then still be able to go out for that glass of wine. And that's who I am, is that I will disagree, but you have to do something really, really awful for me not to want to cross the street with you. And I think I would like to bring that to the board table.
Angela.
For myself, sitting at a council table, it's very important to segregate and separate what is personal and what is business or board business. What happens at the board table, whether it's in camera or not, stays at the board table. You don't take it home for supper. You don't take it out to the bar. What happens at the board table stays at the board table. You deal with it respectfully. You ask for understanding. You ask for clarification, because in a lot of instances, something that can end up horribly bad and blowing up in your face started as a simple misunderstanding or a simple miscommunication. So for myself, I have had many instances at the board table where we come to a decision as a board, and maybe I didn't vote for it, it wasn't what I wanted to happen, but because we decided as a board, we are one voice. Once that decision has been made, we speak as one voice, and this is our decision. Thank you.
Andy.
Thank you for the question. Conflict arises from misunderstanding. Conflict arises when you allow personal, the thought of that you are being personally attacked, then conflict arises. So for me, I would begin with saying that nothing is personal. We're just here to understand, discuss, and work together to get to the common goal. And when there's conflict in opinion, we need to spend the time asking the questions and trying to understand from the other person's perspective what their position is. It's important to always have that conversation. At the end of the day, my goal is always that I can go out for a glass of wine, a beer, or a coffee with everybody on the board saying, we did good work. My experience with some of this is quite vast, because I have once presented on behalf of a board an idea that I disagreed with. And I was asked
Thanks,
as
Andy.
chair to present that. Thank you.
McKenna.
It's a very great question, as my colleagues have also commented, because from conflict, I believe that's where passion comes from. That's where you have your feelings are on your sleeve, and you're being passionate, and you are talking about something without fear of thinking how others are going to think about what you have to say. And sometimes that does rub people the wrong way. But if we're in an industry that fights with each other, how are we going to be taken seriously if we can't get it together and come up with a strong message? We have 3 general farm organizations. We have 200 plus commodities in this province. Could you just imagine if we put some of those differences aside and wrote one single letter? We could put that conflict into power, into action, and create something that could be changing. And from that...
Thanks, McKenna. Sorry, I have to. I know. So there's 3 more questions. I have 2 in the queue over here, and I have 1 online. And the only way we can get through this is we're going to do real agriculture rapid fire format here. So I'm hoping my team up there can change the clock to 20 seconds. So you got to be fast. 2-0, 20 seconds. First question is from Patrick Berkeley. When do opposing viewpoints within the OFA membership become detrimental to the OFA? Andy, you're up first.
When you take it personally, and when you don't have the ability as a collective group to find a common solution that creates common ground inside of the areas of conflict. You need to, and there is always common ground, and it's just to agree to disagree and find the common ground. Thank you.
Well done. Angela.
Opposing opinions become a detriment when it becomes personal. We are not up here, we are not at a board to discuss personal or personalities. We are here to discuss the business of agriculture. And if we are not discussing agriculture, that is when it becomes a detriment.
McKenna.
Like, it's a great question. You're never going to move forward if there isn't conflict. You have to put your personal views aside, and if you can't do that, then you're not in the right role. And that's something that I can do. My job is to be unbiased and do what is best as a board member together. And so that's...
Thanks, McKenna. Teresa.
Opposing opinions become a detriment when they aren't dealt with.
Oh my gosh, she wins. I mean, the question.
First
That's
time,
good.
I know.
Not the election, the question, the shortest answer. The shortest answer from Teresa ever.
Thank you. It's a first.
Jordan.
It's a first.
Make sure she speaks good into the mic.
Yes, speak well into the microphone, Jordan.
Make it a little shorter.
There you go.
Jordan Domio, Niagara, and also president of the Junior Farmers Association of Ontario. My question to you all, and thank you for all for running, is we've all heard that bringing in the next generation is a crucial part of the success of farming and keeping it what we want it to be. What are your ideas to encourage young people to come out and get involved?
All right, same rules, 20 seconds, starting with Teresa. Oh, she said, what are your ideas for bringing the next generation into farm organizations?
I gave birth to a couple.
McKenna.
I can't add 20 more.
I am that next generation leader that is being encouraged to come up and be a part of the board table. That is something that I've wanted to do. I've watched my mentors, and I have mentees underneath me, and now I'm in that middle section where I'm ready to take that leap, and I am that next generation that you're looking for, I hope.
Angela.
Trust in the next generation. Give them the opportunity. Host events, encourage them to come out, drag them if you have to, and make sure that they feel included.
Andy.
Listen, respect, encourage, trust, involve, be a mentor to them, and be positive. Thank you.
Good one. Jackie was my last question. She's disappeared. Oh, no, there she is.
Jackie Kelly, Pemberton, Dundas County. My question, well, first I would like to say thank you for letting your name stand and your willingness to represent the province as a director at large. There is a huge time commitment to sit on a board of directors, and I wanted to know, how have you prepared home, farm, family, and work life to take on this role?
Thank you. All right. We're going to start with Angela. 20 seconds.
First, I raised very self-sufficient children, thankfully, so they'll look after their father while I'm gone. Atta girl. Second, I live by my phone, I live by my schedule, and I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I was on council at the same time, so doing this is not going to be an issue.
Angela. Sorry, McKenna.
Speaking to my time commitments, currently I'm enrolled in the Advanced Agriculture Leadership Program with the graduation date of March 2027, and I run my cut flower operation. I am not on any other boards. I am part of the Middlesex Plowmen's Association, so I do have some time commitments coming up with Worlds and Canadians and doing some marketing, but this is my one priority to be a part of.
Teresa.
You're right, Jackie. It is a very huge commitment, both time-wise and mentally-wise. I do a lot of things before I leave the farm to make sure that things run when I'm gone. We have the family and support of my family and the staff. Plus, I've been doing this now for almost 18 years, and I think everybody knows where my priorities are, that if I'm on the phone and I close the door, they better not ask me a question.
Thanks, Teresa. All right. Now it's your...
What about me?
Andy. Oh, sorry, I missed Andy. I heard your answer in my head.
Atta girl.
Sorry, don't start that timer. That's kind of, I got to get through that thought for a second first, please. Okay, I'm ready to go. I'm semi-retired. I have a lot of energy, and my boys are telling me, Dad, you got to be semi-retired. We need you out of the workplace in order to quit messing things up. So therefore, the time is opening up way good for me. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know how to manage time. I have achieved all of this already. Thank you.
All right. Thanks to all of our candidates. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, so now is your opportunity. I think our 4 candidate names are on your clicker. Choose the one candidate that you would like to see be the director at large for the 3-year term. And as I mentioned, we're looking for 50% plus 1 to be declared the successful candidate. Choosing one. It's open now. If anybody is having any troubles voting, please wave and we will make sure that you get looked after, or we'll pause the clock. I see a waving person at the back of the room. We have a couple of spots that need help. Okay, we'll pause our clock here. Thanks, Peter. All right. Folks have sat down over here, so I think that means they're good. We still are getting a bit of help right in the back in the center here. Is everybody else okay once we get this one looked after? Okay, are we thumbs up in the back? It's hard to see with the lights. All right. If you need more time, please stand up. It's hard to see. We still have someone at the back that's looking for help? Okay, we still got a couple in the back. It's a very important vote. There was not this much trouble with the resolutions. Somebody say this. Okay. I hear people say we're good. Okay. We did not achieve 50% plus 1 on the first ballot. So I'd like to thank McKenna Roth very much on behalf of all of us for putting your name forward. You can stay up here though, McKenna, because you can stay here because we have another election in a few moments. So, okay, so we're going to vote again. There will only be 3 names on the ballot this time. This is for the 3-year position. So you will vote again, Angela, Andy, or Teresa. but we can't fix it on there. You know who it is. TVR, or TBR. Maybe we could call her TBR. Okay. Voting is open. Okay. Just awaiting our results. Nothing to show. Ooh. Okay. So we'll drop Andy Kuyvenhoven from the list, and we will vote again. All right, is the vote open yet? Not yet? Okay. Voting is open. I'm sorry. All right, there we go. 50% plus one to Teresa Van Ray. Congratulations, Teresa. So I'm now going to ask all of the candidates if they are willing to let their names stand for the one-year position on the board. I believe I know their answers, but McKenna, will you let your name stand?
Yes, absolutely, please.
Thank you. Angela, will you let your name stand?
Yes, please.
And Andy, will you let your name stand?
I'd be honored.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to do this again and put those three names up and choose one. They will again require 50% plus one to be successful. I'm getting the thumbs up. Voting is open. Ooh, Angela Field. Congratulations, Angela. thank you to all of our candidates. All right. Thanks, Andy. All right, I'm now going to invite Drew up to provide some closing remarks. And we have one more draw to make. This is the person who won the casino prize. The real prize was the fun they had. This is just a token to pick up the registration.
Okay, thanks very much for your participation in the elections for Director at Large. The lifeblood of any membership organization comes from the people who step up and volunteer their time for leadership roles. The OFA is certainly no different, and any of us who are involved in these types of roles know the time and energy that this type of commitment calls for. Before we wrap up for the day, I have some very important presentations to make, and I'll ask the people to help me with that. And these are for our retiring directors this year. I'd ask Steve Brackenridge and Mark Reeser to come forward.
Morning, everyone. It has been 9 years since Steve Brackenridge first joined the OFA board as a director for Zone 10, representing farmers in Peterborough, Durham, and Kawartha Lakes, Haliburton. He grows corn, soybeans, and wheat, sells maple syrup equipment and supplies, and runs a commercial grain elevator. His journey to the OFA board started long before 2016, however. Steve grew up on a hog farm, and his father served as an OFA director. After attending University of Guelph, he spent the early years of his career as an animal nutritionist, working with dairy, beef, sheep, and goat farmers. So when people in his region convinced him to put his name forward for a zone director job, he felt he was bringing a broad range of knowledge to the table. Some of the earliest issues Steve worked on, getting natural gas and high-speed internet into rural Ontario, are still on the table today. Progress is happening, but it is slow, and he believes this is an example of why the OFA voice matters, to push for policy and investment that makes life better for farmers and rural communities. Advocacy is never easy, he says, but it is essential. One of the accomplishments that he is most proud of is how far we have moved the dial in raising awareness of agriculture's importance to the Ontario economy. At OFA's last Queen's Park Outreach Day this past March, we met with more MPPs in one day than ever before. And the interest in farm and food production and our role as a pillar of the provincial economy has never been so strong. Taking on the role of a provincial director is a big commitment, and we appreciate that Steve has given almost a decade of his time and energy to Ontario agriculture. Steve, it is my honor to thank you for your service to the OFA, to the farmers you represent, and to the broader agricultural community. Thank you so much for what you do and have done.
All right, I'd ask Tracy Arts and Crispin Colvin to come forward, please.
I have the honor and the pleasure to introduce Crispin Colbin. He is one of the reasons that I am standing here today as director of OFA. He gave me a nudge and then later a little bit harder of a kick so that I ran as a director. Just like Steve, Crispin joined as an OFA director 9 years ago. He joined first as an OFA board in 2016, serving as a director at large for 3 years. In 2019, he became the Zone 6 director for Lambton and Middlesex counties, a position he held until earlier this year. During this time on the board, Crispin served as both vice president and the executive member. He was the OFA's representative to Farm and Food Care Ontario, progressing through the leadership of that organization to serve 2 years as the chair. Crispin is an active and longtime member of the Middlesex Federation and is passionate about land use planning, yeah, well deserved, and farmland preservation, as well as issues related to livestock production and animal welfare. This year, Crispin was recognized as a food system champion by the Middlesex London Food Policy Council. It's an honor to given to individuals, groups, or organizations who are helping to build a healthier, fairer, and more sustainable food system. Outside of the OFA, Crispin has also volunteered his time with a variety of other boards, including the Board of Governors of the Fanshawe College, Thorndale Fair, Western University, London Training Centre, and the London Convention Centre. He's also the former mayor of Thames Centre and a past warden of Middlesex County. Thank you, Crispin, for your representation of our members, for your contribution to this organization, and for your service to the agriculture sector.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve on this board, but there's one group of people that makes our board look really good, and that's all the staff, from the people down here at the front, the MSRs, the researchers, and everybody. And I would like you all to stand up and give them a round of applause, because they do a lot of work and they deserve our congratulations.
All right, congratulations and thank you to Crispin and Steve and Paul. In addition to those retirements, I wanted to make note that Angela Cammert has left the board, and we wish her all the best in her future endeavors. The theme of this conference, and I'm a little biased, but I think it's been a great annual general meeting, AGM. The theme has been strength in unity. Over the course of the last year, we've seen a huge emphasis on taking the team approach to many different things. Whether it's the Council of Federations, the premiers and Prime Minister working towards a Canada First agenda and a Canada First approach, interprovincial trade barriers and other things, or Canadian agriculture ministers and provincial agriculture ministers working on trade and tariff impacts, the Buy Canadian, Buy Local movement and initiatives that have been happening, the Toronto Blue Jays' magical run to the World Series, taking a one-run lead into the 9th inning of Game 7 with 2 outs to go. The number 9 hitter at the plate and the closer on the mound with a chance to win it all. I'm not bitter at all. All of these things have taken a team to work towards achieving the best results. The work here at OFA is also a team sport. We can't do this alone. We can't do this work alone, and we appreciate working with many partners across the sector to get it done. From commodity partners and many other new member organizations to county federations and members up and down the organization, there is strength in unity. I'm grateful for the support of the board and a strong team here at OFA, and hope that you will continue to support the OFA team that supports all of you and the 38,000 members across the organization and across the province. I want to just conclude by thanking everyone for the support of the silent auction. I think it's great to see that support and the money raised for the scholarships. I want to thank our sponsors, and we listed them all out yesterday, but we couldn't have this meeting without them. I want to thank our staff, Kathy, Kelly, Wendy, the team that puts all this together. It couldn't happen without any of you. And we certainly appreciate everyone's attendance here and participation at our AGM, and look forward to another busy and successful year ahead. We have a winning ticket from the casino draw last night, so if you have your green ticket available, if you cashed out at the end of the night, when you're ready, it's green ticket number 139809. Got to be in the rim to win. $139,809. We got a winner, Gary Mountain. Oh, the prize is at the registration desk, Gary. You don't have to come all the way up here. Yeah. No, I'll trust you. All right, again, thanks very much for attending. Thanks for your participation, and safe travels home, and we'll see you again next year. The board will be having a picture on the stage. If you can assemble yourselves up here, that would be great. Thanks.